Chapter 110. Fairies' Cultivation. _1 Tall pines and verdant cypresses, on the 1,000 peaks where waterfalls descended and streams flowed, palace after palace was erected. In the magnificent palace at the peak, emptiness reigned, save for a colorfully dressed woman standing gracefully and poised. Master. At that moment, a beautiful woman with a graceful figure and white clothes billowing like sails entered the great hall. Looking at the woman in colorful clothes inside the hall, her beautiful and spirited eyes brightened as she gave a ceremonious bow, her voice sweet and gentle. You have arrived. Yun Wansheng turned around upon seeing her disciple, revealing a smile on her stunning face. She said to Xiaofan in a voice tinged with authority, I have gathered all the medicinal ingredients needed for the red dust elixir, but I must ask you once more, have you really made up your mind? With your 4th grade spiritual root and the innate moonlight spirit body, even if you do not cultivate the supreme forgetful love technique, you would still aspire to core formation. Yun Wansheng spoke thus. Her recent expedition to collect purple spirit liquid was for the sake of her disciples' cultivation, to refine an elixir medicine. Upon hearing these words, Xiaofan lightly pressed her lips together, and a serious expression appeared on her enchanting face. Then with resolute eyes, she looked at Yun Wansheng and saluted with hands cupped. Master, Xiu has decided, and I will have no regrets. Alas! Looking at Xiaofan with her determined expression, Yun Wansheng sighed softly in her heart. She was uncertain whether mentioning the supreme forgetful love technique to her disciple back then was right or wrong. The supreme forgetful love technique was a cultivation method she had acquired in a secret realm. Despite its power, it also had obvious side effects. After cultivating it, one would gradually become indifferent, unmoved by emotions or disturbed by feelings. Ordinarily, Xiaofan was lively and clever, much to her liking, but if she were to cultivate the supreme forgetful love technique, she feared Xiu's demeanor would be completely altered. Nevertheless, Yun Wansheng did not offer any further persuasion. She gave a slight nod and said, Good, since you have decided, I will ask Elder Yun to refine the red dust elixir for you. She also understood that even with Xiaofan's talent and gifts, core formation was only a hope. But if she could master the supreme forgetful love technique, it would no longer be just a hope. As long as she did not die prematurely, she would certainly achieve core formation. There might even be hope for further advancements. That was the reason why she had given Xiaofan the choice of the supreme forgetful love technique in the first place. The azure sky, clear for thousands of miles. An iron feather eagle with jet black feathers glided through the air. We were delayed for 3 or 4 days on the journey. I wonder if I can still make it in time? Lu Chongqing sat cross-legged on the iron feather eagle, his heart full of concern for Lu Miaoyun, who was about to give birth. By his original calculations, he would arrive home early enough to be there for the birth of Lu Miaoyun's child. However, the ambush on the way and the 3 days and nights in the cave had delayed him. He was uncertain whether Lu Miaoyun had already given birth. At that moment, suddenly, a mysterious and profound throbbing arose within Lu Chongqing. He recognized this throbbing very well. It was the stirring of the spiritual root. Lu Chongqing abruptly looked into the distance towards Qingzhou Mountain, his face alight with joy and excitement. At this moment, he seemed to hear the cry of a baby from afar. My child has been born. This profound throbbing gave Lu Chongqing a feeling as if there was a blood connection. He knew Lu Miaoyun had given birth, and his own child had entered the world. And this child did not disappoint his expectations or hopes. He possessed a spiritual root. This sensation of the spiritual root's enhancement seems to be stronger than the previous 2 times. Lu Chongqing reflected on the fleeting moment of the spiritual root's stirring. Having already 3 children with spiritual roots, bolstered by 3 increments, he could sense the subtle differences brought by the enhancement of the spiritual root. For his previous 3 children, their spiritual roots, he was rather certain. 1 with a 9th grade spiritual root, and 2 with 8th grade spiritual roots. This child now had a high likelihood of having a 7th grade spiritual root. Just like Lu Miaoyun's spiritual root. Ha! In that moment, Lu Chongqing exhaled deeply, his gaze fixed in the direction of Qingzhou Mountain, his heart yearning to return home. After a good part of the day, an iron feather eagle descended outside Qingzhou Mountain. Lu Chongqing stored the iron feather eagle back into his spiritual pet bag, took out his identity token, and after entering the valley, he transformed into a shadow, racing toward his home. Husband! Husband! "Daddy, Daddy! Daddy's back!" As soon as Lu Chongqing stepped into the manor, his wives and the playing children saw him and greeted him with joyful expressions, shouting to Lu Chongqing, "Husband, Sister Miaoyun has already given birth today. It's a boy." One of the wives approached and informed Lu Chongqing. "Good, I'll go see Miaoyun." Lu Chongqing nodded and made his way to a certain courtyard. He saw Lu Miaoyun in the courtyard holding a swaddled baby, her face beaming with maternal radiance. Chu Zhanjin and several wives were at her side, watching over the child and chatting with her. "Husband." The women showed delight at Lu Changsheng's return. Lu Chongqing nodded slightly, then said to Lu Miaoyun, "Miaoyun, I apologize for coming back late due to some mishaps on the way." He had promised Lu Miaoyun that he would arrive before the birth of their child. Although he initially planned to make it in time, due to unforeseen occurrences, he was delayed by half a day. There was also some guilt in his heart. "It's all right, husband." Lu Miaoyun, having just given birth, was still somewhat weak and her complexion was a bit pale. She bore no blame for Lu Chongqing, and instead looked at him with concern, inquiring, "Husband, what mishap did you encounter on the road? Was there any danger?" "I just ran into a few minor robber cultivators, but with the protection talismans from grandmother, there was no real danger." Chapter 111. Fairies' Cultivation. Lu Chongqing smiled and said, "Robber cultivators?" Lu Miaoyun and the other women were shocked upon hearing this, showing a terrified expression. They naturally knew that the cultivation world was extremely dangerous. There were many cultivators who bullied the weak, robbed at will, and killed for treasure. These kinds of cultivators were known as robber cultivators. Those who became robber cultivators also possessed certain strengths and methods. They hadn't expected that on the way home, their husband had actually encountered a robber cultivator. They also knew that their husband's cultivation level wasn't high. He had only recently broken through to the 4th level of Qi refinement and had not experienced much life and death fighting. "Husband, it's too dangerous for you to travel back and forth each month like this. With Sister Miaoga around, it's all right, but if you're alone in the future, you might encounter danger. Why don't you talk to Grandma and stop coming back every month, or wait until second Grandpa comes home and travel back with him?" Lu Miaoyun said, her face showing a touch of worry. Upon hearing this, Lu Chongqing felt warmth in his heart. He had similarly considered this matter himself. He thought of bringing Lu Miaoyun and the other women like Chu Zhanjin to the 9 Dragons Market as well. Otherwise, traveling back and forth each month could still lead to danger. Although he now had the cultivation of the 6th level of Qi refinement and could draw some supreme talismans to protect himself, not fearing ordinary robber cultivators, what if he met a Foundation establishment great cultivator? And if he encountered an accident like this time again? What if his stroke of luck turned into a disaster? So for safety's sake, Lu Chongqing decided it was best not to travel back and forth as much. Instead, he planned to live quietly and securely in the 9 Dragons Market. "Let's talk about this matter later. Let me see our child first." Lu Chongqing smiled, planning to discuss the matter with the 4th elder later. He then looked toward the child in Lu Miaoyun's arms. Since both he and Lu Miaoyun were cultivators, this child also looked noticeably more adorable and attractive. With shining black eyes and smooth, fair skin, not reddened and wrinkled. Holding the child in his arms, Lu Chongqing couldn't help but smile. He could clearly feel that he would be even more fond of this child. Indeed, how could one be completely impartial and fair? After all, there will always be favoritism and preference, Lu Chongqing mused internally. He had long known that with many children, it was impossible for him to treat them all equally. With children like Lu Pingon, Lu Wuyo, Lu Wuyu, and Lu Shila, it was still manageable. But as the number of children increased, besides a few who usually pleased him, he would noticeably favor the children with a spiritual root. "Husband, why don't you name this child?" At this moment, Lu Miaoyun, looking at the delighted Lu Chongqing holding the child, said softly, "A name." Lu Chongqing pondered for a moment upon hearing this and smiled. "Let's call him Lu Yun." The name suggests ambition and a broad and profound future, and it shares a similar sound with your name, Miaoyun. Now with many children, naming had also become more difficult. So, Lu Chongqing became somewhat more casual about naming his children. Lu Yun. Lu Miaoyun, hearing this name, immediately had a glint of admiration in her eyes, looking at Lu Chongqing with tenderness and affection. Then she smiled toward the child in the swaddle. "From now on, Your name will be Lu Yun, Yuner. From now on, not only will the husband have a big Yuner, but also a little Yuner, said another wife jokingly. What little Yuner, big Yuner? In my heart, there's only one Yuner, Lu Chongqing immediately said, embracing Lu Miaoyun who was beside him. Hearing this, Lu Miaoyun instantly blushed, leaning sweetly and contentedly into Lu Changsheng's embrace, drawing giggles and envy from the other wives nearby. Just like that, Lu Chongqing spent time with Lu Miaoyun, Chu Zhenjin, and his numerous wives. It wasn't until the next day that he found some free time. He went to the study and began to meditate and cultivate. To see how much his cultivation speed had increased after the addition of his son's spiritual root. After cultivating for an hour, Lu Chongsheng could sense that his cultivation speed had increased by about 20%. This confirmed to him that his son had a 7th grade spiritual root. The cultivation speed with a 7th grade spiritual root is almost 30% faster than that with an 8th grade spiritual root, and it's easier to break through bottlenecks. Once this child grows a bit and his spiritual root fully matures, my spiritual root will be upgraded to the 7th grade. If the child in Zenshin's womb, due next month, also has a spiritual root, my spiritual root might directly advance to 7th grade. Then I imagine breaking through the bottleneck from the 6th level to the 7th level of qi refinement will be much simpler. Otherwise, I don't know how long I would have to wait to break through from middle to later stage. Lu Changsheng's eyes twinkled with great anticipation. He had just finished an hour of cultivation, but there was hardly any movement in his qi ocean core. It made him inwardly sigh at the difficulty of advancing from the middle to the later stages of qi refinement. Thinking back to his own advancement from the 3rd level to the 4th level of qi refinement, he had been stuck for more than a year. The bottleneck from the middle to later stages would only be harder, likely requiring 3 to 5 years of grinding. However, Lu Chongqing was already quite satisfied. Without this stroke of lucky encounter, he wouldn't have known how long it would take him to break through from the 4th level to the 6th level of qi refinement. Just the experience of advancing from the 4th level to the 6th level in 3 days had made him somewhat reluctant to strive harder. He fondly reminisced about those magical and enchanting 3 days and nights. If I could have continued for 10 days or half a month back then, could I have directly advanced to the pinnacle of qi refinement? Lu Chongqing couldn't help but think. Chapter 112. Fairies' Cultivation. But thinking about it, he knew it couldn't be possible. Not to mention that others might not be willing. Such an improvement probably wasn't so simple. Hiss Lu Chongqing. Oh Lu Chongqing, how could you have such thoughts? No sooner had the idea appeared than Lu Chongqing immediately felt he was being somewhat degenerate. Even if I improved my strength and broke through the realm in this way, what would it amount to? Such improvements would leave my state of mind, skills, and power unfit for my cultivation realm, leading to a shaky foundation. Only through my own efforts, step by step, keeping grounded, and the principle of more children more blessings, can I truly enhance myself and attain the ultimate way. All other paths are but passing clouds. Only by taking wives and concubines, having children, and advancing step by step can one reach the end. Lu Chongqing immediately introspected, cast aside the crooked thoughts in his mind, firmed his belief, and adhered to the path of self-improvement with the more children, more blessings policy. Phew, don't forget why you started, and you will be able to endure to the end. Remember the original intention. Lu Chongqing took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. Afterward, he took out his talisman-making tools, ready to attempt crafting a supreme talisman. His biggest issue with crafting high-level talismans before was his cultivation level. Now, having broken through to the 6th level of energy refinement, this issue had been easily resolved. He laid out the talisman paper, and with a magic artifact pen in hand, he gently dipped it in spiritual ink. Then with his palm, where spiritual power flowed, he transferred it to the pen, making the tip brim with spiritual light. As the pen touched the paper, it moved like a dragon or snake, the strokes channeling spiritual power fluidly, without the slightest delay. A moment later, Lu Chongqing lifted his hand. Arcs of thunder spread over the talisman paper. A first-grade superior talisman, Thunder Summoning Talisman, was made. Previously, Lu Chongqing found it somewhat strenuous to craft the Thunder Summoning Talisman. He had to be extremely careful during the process to avoid failure. But now it was like eating and drinking. With my current cultivation at the 6th level, I should be able to craft 3 or 4 superior talismans at a time. Lu Chongqing felt the consumption of spiritual power within his body and mumbled to himself. Before, crafting one thunder summoning talisman would leave him feeling drained. Immediately, Lu Chongqing took out another piece of talisman paper and began crafting a first-grade supreme talisman, the Thunder Talisman. As he crafted the Thunder Talisman, a sense of seriousness and concentration appeared on Lu Chongqing's face. The spirited pen moved slowly on the talisman paper, outlining one talisman line after another, with the patterns flickering with spiritual light. However, before he was even halfway through the outline, the talisman paper suddenly made a ZZT sound and emitted a puff of smoke. I suddenly broke through to the peak of the 6th level of energy refinement and am not yet familiar with it. My control is still lacking a bit. Lu Chongqing shook his head. He immediately knew what the problem was. One issue was the middle-grade magic artifact pen, which wasn't quite up to the task of crafting a supreme talisman. The second was that his control over spiritual power was insufficient. So with both problems combined, the excessive spiritual power during the drawing process caused the lines to be unstable, resulting in a failed crafting. But these weren't real problems, just things that required a bit more familiarization. Feeling the spiritual power within his body, Lu Chongqing didn't continue with talisman making. He planned to wait until later when his spiritual power and mental spirit recovered before trying to craft a supreme talisman again. With a cultivation level at the 6th level, crafting a supreme talisman was not an issue. But he could likely only make one at a time, without the possibility of continuous crafting. Having just crafted one superior talisman and half of a supreme talisman, it had taken a toll on him. He needed to take it slow. Moreover, such matters were not to be rushed. Lu Chongqing left his home, ready to visit the 4th elder and discuss the matter of running between two places. But just as he stepped out, he learned that the 4th elder had already come to his home to visit his great-grandson. Immediately, Lu Chongqing headed to the backyard. He saw the 4th elder with a loving smile, holding his son Lu Yun and chatting happily with Lu Miaoyun. Grandmother. Lu Chongqing stepped forward and greeted with a slight bow. Chongqing, you're here. The 4th elder nodded toward Lu Chongqing and said, I just heard from Yuner that you encountered a robber cultivator on your way back, is that so? Yes, but with the talisman you gave me, Grandma, Chongqing didn't experience any mishaps. Lu Chongqing said so. Grandma was just thinking, it's indeed dangerous for you to be traveling back and forth alone. Even with a talisman at hand, it's still not safe. Therefore, Grandma thinks, why don't you just stop going to 9 Dragons Market? I can find someone else to manage the spiritual talisman shop there, and you can just stay at home in peace. The 4th elder spoke, saying this. She had wanted Lu Chongqing to go to 9 Dragons Market to manage the shop as a way for him to gain experience and learn something. But if any accident were to happen on these journeys, it would be more loss than gain. So, she would rather Lu Chongqing stay put at Qingzhou Mountain without going out. Lu Chongqing was somewhat surprised upon hearing this. He had thought the 4th elder would allow him not to come back every month. He had not expected the 4th elder to directly suggest that he stay at Qingzhou Mountain and not go out at all. If it had been before, he wouldn't have cared. He would have just comfortably stayed put at Qingzhou Mountain. But now, having tasted the conveniences and benefits of 9 Dragons Market, he had a preference for staying there long term. Otherwise, spending all his days at Qingzhou Mountain, he would miss out on buying materials for the 100 Refinements treasure body art, materials for talisman making, earning spirit stones, or even finding a girl. Grandma, Chongqing still wants to go to 9 Dragons Market to experience the outside world. However, I'm thinking of bringing Yuner and the others to 9 Dragons Market later on. When coming back home, I can come with the 2nd elder. Lu Chongqing voiced his thoughts. Yesterday, he had also heard from Lu Miaoyun that the 2nd elder would return after a certain period of time as well. That's also fine. With your talent in talisman making, there's not much more Grandma can teach you, and you don't have to come back every month. As for the matter with Yuner, you and your wife can discuss it among yourselves. It's not a problem to come back with the 2nd elder. The 2nd elder comes back almost every 6 months, which is also suitable, said the 4th elder after a moment of contemplation, nodding her assent. She could understand Lu Chongqing's thinking. After all, what 20-something-year-old would want to stay cooped up in Qingzhou Mountain all the time? Shortly after, Lu Chongqing finished chatting with the 4th elder, and also discussed with Lu Miaoyun, Chu Zhenzhen, and the others about the subsequent arrangements. For this trip, he would stay at home, waiting for Chu Zhenjin to give birth before going back to Nine Dragons Market. As for Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin, there was no rush to head to Nine Dragons Market. They would first strengthen themselves in Qingzhou Mountain and take care of the child. Lu Pingon, Lu Wuyu, and the other children had been sent by Lu Miaoyun to White Deer Mountain Villa not long ago to study. If everyone left, there would be no one to watch over so many children at home. Thus, Lu Chongxing settled down in Qingzhou Valley, waiting for Chu Zhenjin to have the baby. In the meantime, Lu Chongxing tested out the effects of the 100 Refinements treasure body art a little. All he could say was, it truly lived up to the orthodox level body refining techniques. Just the first level alone, and his physical body was comparable to a magic artifact, capable of dealing with 10 women in a single night. It just made him think about when he could get his hands on another cultivation technique that refined the 5 viscera and 6 bowels. Ideally, one that would transform his kidneys into an eternal furnace. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. That day, Lu Chongsheng was feeding the 9 netherhound in the courtyard. The 9 netherhound was now over a meter tall, its fur black and glossy, with sharp interlocking fangs protruding from its mouth and vertical pupils that intimidated the soul. Lu Chongxing felt that in a few years, anyone would be able to see the 9 netherhound's extraordinariness. The idea of setting the 9 netherhound free, letting it grow on its own outside, seemed indeed worth considering. Just then, Chu Zhenjin suddenly cried out in pain, signaling that she was about to give birth. Chapter 113. Having a baby. Pregnancy plus 10. Lottery draw under 1 outside the birthing room. Lu Chongxing, holding his son Lu Chuanjin and accompanied by several wives and concubines, waited outside. Lu Chuanjin was his first child with Chu Zhenjin, possessing an 8th grade spiritual root. Wah! Soon, a clear cry of a baby echoed from the birthing room, invigorating Lu Changsheng's spirit. However, at this moment, he felt no anomaly, no palpitations. Immediately, Lu Chongxing knew. The child Chu Zhenjin bore had no spiritual root. Having anticipated this for so long, upon learning at this moment that the child had no spiritual root, to say there was no disappointment would be impossible. But in a moment, Lu Chongxing came to terms with it. Even if both parents had spiritual roots, the probability of their child being born with one was only about 10 to 20%. That Chu Zhenjin's first birth and Lu Miaoyun's child last month both had spiritual roots was already a blessing. How could one expect each and every one to possess a spiritual root? Lu Chongxing was quite open-minded about this and walked into the birthing room, still holding Lu Chuanjin. The midwife immediately carefully handed over the swaddled infant to Lu Chongxing with a full-faced smile, saying, "Congratulations, young master, it's a baby girl." "Good. Thank you for your efforts." Upon hearing the words, Lu Chongxing smiled as he took the swaddle and looked at the child. Since Chu Zhenjin's previous child was a boy, and this one was a girl, they were blessed with both a son and a daughter. "Chuanjin, this is your younger sister." Lu Chongxing looked at the newborn child and said to Lu Chuanjin, Lu Chuanjin, already a year and a half old, could say some simple words. He looked at his newly born sister with curious eyes, babbling away. Lu Chongxing approached the bed and placed Lu Chuanjin down. Seeing Chu Zhenjin's somewhat pale and weak face, Lu Chongxing felt pained as he took her small hand, saying, "Zhenjin, you've worked hard." He had always been quite fond of this girl, whom he had saved halfway through her life. One reason was the girl's indeed cleverness and understanding nature that endeared her to everyone. Another reason was that Chu Zhenjin had a spiritual root, and he had had ulterior motives when bringing Chu Zhenjin back to Qingzhou Mountain. Furthermore, given her pitiable background, alone with no one but himself, he afforded her an extra share of affection. "Husband." A smile appeared on Chu Zhenjin's face as she softly called out to Lu Chongxing, then tried to sit up to look at the child. "Look, how adorable. She will certainly be as cute as you, Zhenjin, when she grows up." Lu Chongxing immediately handed the child over for her to see, saying with a smile, "Chuanjin, you must take good care of your sister and protect her, do you understand?" Chu Zhenjin smiled, then turned to her somewhat confused son Lu Chuanjin, and gently said. Seeing Chu Zhenjin's expression, Lu Chongxing knew she was thinking of her own childhood, thinking of her brother, Chu Changge. He hadn't told Chu Zhenzhen about the news of Chu Change's demon cultivation. He just said that people were searching, but there was still no news. Now, more than 2 years later, with no news of her brother, Chu Zhenzhen gradually realized that her brother was likely more unfortunate than fortunate. Thereupon, Lu Chongqing took Chu Zhenzhen's hand and gently comforted her. "As long as you have me, I will also take good care of all of you and protect you." In this world, wives and children are also his soft spot and one of the driving forces behind his efforts. In his view, if one couldn't even protect one's wives and children, then the path of immortality was cultivated in vain. "Husband, have you thought of a name for this child?" Chu Zhenzhen asked, her pretty face showing a sweet smile. "The name. Let's call her Yuzhen." Lu Chongqing pondered for a moment and named the little girl in his arms. "Chuanzhen, Yuzhen." Chu Zhenzhen heard the name, murmured it, and then softly said to the little girl, "Yuzhen, Lu Yuzhen." The infant in her arms also cried out with a wah, as if responding. Seeing this scene, both Lu Chongqing and Chu Zhenzhen couldn't help but look at each other and smile. Soon after, the couple chatted for a while, and Lu Chongqing told Chu Zhenzhen to rest well before leaving the room with the children. Atop a solemn, austere, and eerily sinister platform, the cold wind howled. Around the platform stood tall metallic flagpoles, upon which black banners embroidered with various demon patterns flapped. Some had 3 heads and 6 arms, some had ferocious faces, some were covered in eyes, some had the bodies of demons and humans with wings, and others were headless with faces on their chests. These varied and lifelike patterns could chill the hearts of those who saw them, as if they were being watched by demons themselves. In the center of the platform sat a man in his 20s with an austere face and white hair, surrounded by many strange patterns and runes etched around him. At this time, dark red blood traced the patterns, continuously flowing towards the center where the white-haired young man sat. The man's face was contorted in pain, his fists clenched tightly, veins bulging, blood pulsing, and sweat pouring from his body. But the white-haired young man just bit down hard on his teeth, uttering no sound, enduring the ordeal. No one knew how much time passed when suddenly, the demon patterns on the surrounding banners seemed to come to life. Their crimson eyes suddenly opened, staring down at the white-haired man, filling the platform with an overwhelming blood-colored glow. Enveloped in this blood-red light, the white-haired young man let out a muffled groan. Blood flowed from his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose, and the veins in his body bulged like worms, nearly bursting open. Boom! Just then, drenched in blood and in severe pain, the white-haired man's body emitted a thin, blood-red membrane. It was like a layer of freshly spilled blood slowly flowing over his skin, transforming into an eerie blood-colored battle dress. Chapter 114. Having a baby. Pregnancy plus 10. Lottery draw. The pale-faced youth's face and skin revealed dark red demon patterns. Indeed, in less than a year's time, you've cultivated the demonic technique to completion. Just at that moment, a young man dressed in a black robe, with an exceptionally handsome face, walked out of the void. He looked at the pale-faced youth and revealed a satisfied smile. Then, with a wave of his hand, he and the pale-faced youth disappeared from the platform. 4 days after Chu Zhenzhen gave birth, Lu Miaoge also returned to Qingzhou Mountain. She made an agreement with Lu Chongqing to depart for the 9 Dragons Market in 3 days. In the following days, Lu Chongqing discussed with his wives and concubines, and ultimately decided to let them stay on Qingzhou Mountain. It wasn't just that traveling back and forth was inconvenient. There were so many children at home in need of care, he couldn't bear to leave them. In the more than a month he spent at home, Lu Chongqing didn't slack off, but made every effort to impregnate 2 of his wives. With these 2 children, he now had 34 in total. However, when he thought about how his 29th and 30th children were still nearly 3 months from being born, Lu Chongqing couldn't help but sigh. He felt that he had been somewhat negligent during that time, to have such a long gap. 3 days later, Lu Chongqing rode the Iron Feather Eagle with Lu Miaoge as they set out for the 9 Dragons Market. Before their departure, the 4th elder gave him 3 protective talismans. 2 thunder summoning talismans and 1 thunder talisman. Lu Chongqing had told the 4th elder that he had been forced to use the 2 talismans when he encountered a robber cultivator before. Even though Lu Chongqing now had 9 supreme talismans in his storage bag, he naturally accepted the 4th elder's kindness with a delighted and grateful expression. Their journey to the 9 Dragons Market was very smooth, with no unexpected incidents. This made Lu Chongqing inquire whether Lu Miaoge had encountered any unexpected dangers or robber cultivators during her years of traveling back and forth to the market. Lu Miaoge said that in 3 years, she had only encountered a robber cultivator once. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing couldn't help but shake his head, wondering if he was just unlucky or if he looked like easy prey. After returning home, Lu Chongqing learned from a casual conversation with little Qing that the family next door to his left had moved away about half a month after he returned to Qingzhou Mountain. This led Lu Chongqing to secretly wonder if his assassination attempt had anything to do with this neighbor. After all, based on suspicions related to the allure spell, the 2 robber cultivators who tried to cut him down certainly had accomplices in Nine Dragons Market. Moreover, when he previously visited this neighbor, he sensed a murderous aura on the person, making them unapproachable. And the fact that they moved away just half a month after he left was too coincidental. However, since the neighbor had moved away, whether they were involved or not, Lu Chongqing couldn't confirm and only became more cautious. Subsequently, Lu Chongqing used disguises to carefully dispose of some stolen goods. He sold the magic artifacts of the 2 robber cultivators, keeping only a middle-grade magical shield and 1 flying artifact for himself. The other 7 lower-grade magical instruments, 4 middle-grade magical instruments, and 1 flying artifact were all sold. These magic artifacts fetched a total of 908 spirit stones. The magical robe and magical shoes were somewhat damaged, severely discounted, and since he was dealing with a shop's buyback, the prices were low. Otherwise, if he had set up a stall to sell them himself, he could have earned a few dozen more spirit stones. As for the elixir medicines, talismans, and various other items on the 2 robber cultivators, they were not easy to sell. Lu Chongqing used what he could and stored the rest for later. Previously, he had acquired 362 spirit stones from the 2 robber cultivators. Now, keeping the magical shield and flying artifact, he had sold items for 908 spirit stones, and Lu Chongqing was very satisfied with this haul. He began to feel that the 2 robber cultivators weren't so detestable after all. While selling the magic artifacts, he also casually sold over 100 middle and lower-grade talismans. He earned 211 spirit stones. Looking at the substantial sum of spirit stones on him, Lu Chongqing didn't hesitate to spend 634 spirit stones to purchase a superior-grade soft magic armor. This soft magic armor had 7 major effects: size adjustment, spell immunity, invisibility, cleanliness, dust repelling, evil warding, and body protection. What Lu Chongqing appreciated the most were the spell immunity and body protection effects. This spell immunity wasn't literally immunity to all spells. It could mainly ignore most early-stage chi refinement spells, and alleviate some of the damage from middle-stage chi refinement spells. The body protection effect didn't need much explanation. In times of danger, it could passively trigger a body-protecting technique capable of blocking a single strike from a 9th-level energy refinement cultivator. It was primarily for these 2 effects that Lu Chongqing was willing to spend so many spirit stones on this magic artifact. He then spent 219 spirit stones to buy a middle-grade magic belt. This magic belt had 2 main effects: storage and body protection. What Lu Chongqing was mostly interested in was the body protection. After all, the previous assassination attempt made Lu Chongqing particularly fond of magic artifacts that offered protective techniques. He had talismans and talisman treasures for offense. He just needed to focus on boosting his defense now. After acquiring 2 magic artifacts, considering the issue of the robber cultivator's accomplices, Lu Chongqing saw the need for increased defenses. So he spent another 500 spirit stones to purchase a set of formation equipment to install in his yard. It was a first-grade middle-grade formation known as the 5-element formation, which provided offensive, defensive, and trapping effects. It was capable of dealing with middle-stage chi refinement cultivators without issue. Chapter 115. Having a baby. Pregnancy plus 10. Lottery draw dealing with energy refinement late-stage cultivators. It also has a certain effect. After buying things, Lu Chongqing couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. He really was someone who spent every spirit stone he had. He simply couldn't save any spirit stone. But this was also the situation for most cultivators. Most cultivators thought, if my neighbor stores grain, I store guns. My neighbor is my grain store. If you have spirit stones and don't use them, not using them to enhance your strength, in the end, you might just end up benefiting others, so not many people save money or resources. In the following days, Lu Changsheng's daily routine was cultivation, talisman making, going to work, and coming home to make babies. With half a month of effort, as a key focus of Lu Changsheng's care, Guan Xian, who possessed a spiritual root, successfully became pregnant. After Guan Xian became pregnant, for the remaining 9 maids, Lu Chongxing was actually quite casual. If they got pregnant, they got pregnant, if not, it didn't matter. However, with such matters, as long as nothing happened, getting pregnant was just a matter of time. A little over a month later, 2 of Lu Changsheng's maids, Yi Lian and Song Lan, became pregnant. Hai Tang and Bai He have been arranged as housekeepers, who have to work on daily tasks, so they better not get pregnant. But this way, won't the remaining 5 maids become pregnant in 2 or 3 months at most? When that time comes, do I have to buy another batch of maids? What does this make me, a breeding bore? Lu Chongxing heaved a deep sigh. Deep down, he still felt somewhat uneasy and burdened by this sort of thing. Feeling it was purely for the sake of procreation, without any emotional connection, seemed too much like a stud horse, which wasn't quite right. No, the women in the White Jade Tower are already in a bitter lot. What I'm doing is rescuing them from their misery, which is better than creating a 7-story pagoda. Moreover, I am doing this for cultivation, for becoming an immortal, for the great Tao, so whether I'm seen as a stud horse or not, even if misunderstood by others, as long as my conscience is clear, that's all that matters. Lu Chongxing took a deep breath, his eyes showing a determined look toward his cultivation. Another month or so passed by. Maids Hong Mian, Zi Mei, and Xue Xiao became pregnant. Lu Chongxing planned, once the remaining 2 women became pregnant, to make another trip to the White Jade Tower. By then, he would also have saved a bit of extra money. He could see if there were any unfortunate ones with a spiritual root. One day, after Lu Chongxing arrived at the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Miaoge spoke to him. Chongxing, now that you're familiar with the shop, you can manage things on your own, she said. I'm planning to stop coming here after this month ends, and I'll just stay in the big courtyard in the Eastern District. If you have any problems, you can send messages or come find me. Lu Miaoge said. She had previously discussed this with Lu Chongxing, telling him that once he was familiar and adapted, she would no longer come. All right, Sister Miaoge, don't worry, I'll take care of the shop, Lu Chongxing said, nodding in agreement. He had been at the spiritual talisman shop for over half a year now. In this half year, he had completely understood and grasped the situation of the shop. There were no issues in managing it. And in the past 2 months, Lu Miaoge had completely let go of the reins and stopped managing affairs. She only came by to be available in case Lu Chongxing had any questions. So last month, Lu Chongxing had set up a partnership with Zi Wu Su. He would directly bring over 100 lower-grade talismans and 30 middle-grade talismans to the shop each month for purchase. As for the price, Lu Chongxing did not take much advantage of the shop, opting for a uniform 30% discount. This was mainly to avoid the unnecessary trouble and risk of disguising himself and running around every now and then. As for the superior-grade talismans and supreme talismans, Lu Chongxing hadn't sold any at the shop for the time being. He planned to consider selling a few superior-grade talismans at the shop after some time. 2 days later, shopkeeper Zhang Shan handed the goods and the list over to Lu Chongxing for inspection and spot checking. Now without Lu Miaoge, it took Lu Chongxing a full 3 days to finish inspecting all the goods. I feel if I were to inspect these by myself, it really takes too much time and energy, he said. Lu Chongxing let out a long sigh, feeling a bit dizzy. When Lu Miaoge was around, it wasn't too bad. With a man and a woman working together, the workload was easier to bear. But now, inspecting the goods on his own was unbearably tedious and annoying. Gao He is also a middle-grade talisman master. Maybe I should ask him to come over and help every month? Lu Chongxing suddenly remembered his neighbor, Gao He. Usually Gao He would come over to chat when he had nothing to do, inviting him over for tea. After interacting for so long, Lu Chongxing thought highly of Gao He. So he thought, why not ask Gao He to come and help out for a few days each month? Of course, he wouldn't let him work for nothing. He would just ask if Gao He wanted to earn some extra money. Tonight after I go back I will ask Gao He decided. Lu Chongxing made up his mind, planning to ask him later. This sort of thing wasn't something to be embarrassed about. Night fell. After returning home and having dinner, Lu Chongxing took a short walk and then knocked on his neighbor Gao He's door. Gao He was teaching his daughter Gao Xiaoya how to make talismans, and his normally amiable plump face was somewhat twisted and distorted at the moment. Uncle Lu. Dad, Uncle Lu is here. You guys talk. I'll go make some tea for you. When Gao Xiaoya saw Lu Chongxing, her eyes immediately brightened, and she quickly got up to make tea, looking relieved. She had absolutely no interest in talisman making and also had no talent for it. However, Gao He wanted his daughter to master the skill, no matter if she was talented or not. He planned to make it happen, even if it meant spending money. Brother Lu, do you have something on your mind? Gao He gave a wry smile at his daughter's behavior and then asked. Usually, it was mostly him inviting Lu Chongxing over, as Lu Chongxing seldom sought him out for a chat. So seeing Lu Chongxing come over, he guessed that there must be something up. It's not any big deal, Lu Chongxing immediately explained his situation. And he offered to pay 10 spirit stones for a day's work. For a middle-grade talisman master, this price was already quite good. Since Brother Lu trusts me, I'm more than happy to help. Gao He slapped his chest and said with a beaming smile. All right then, I'll be counting on you, Brother Gao, when the time comes. Having finished, Lu Chongxing chatted with Gao He for a bit more and then prepared to leave. Gao Xiaoya, who had prepared the tea, saw that Lu Chongxing was about to leave. She immediately called out, Hey, Uncle Lu, want you sit for a while and have a cup of tea before you go? No, I still have things to do. Lu Chongxing immediately gestured with his hand and headed out. He had no interest in meddling in their father-daughter affairs. As soon as he stepped out of the door, Lu Chongxing heard Gao Xiaoya's loud, wailing voice and couldn't help but shake his head and smile wryly. In the blink of an eye, another half-month passed. The remaining two maids, Qing He and Shui Xian, also became pregnant. Lu Chongxing arranged for Hai Tang and Bai He to take care of the daily chores. The other 7 maids all became pregnant within just over 4 months. There was also a month when Lu Chongxing had been away at Qingzhou Mountain and not returned. Just as Lu Chongxing was planning to visit White Jade Tower one of these days, a system notification suddenly sounded in his mind. Congratulations to the host for reaching a progeny count of 30. You've received 1 lottery chance. Chapter 116. The Great Tao should not be so narrow, nor should there be so few fellow Taoists. Unders 1, 30 children? The children in Zhou'er and Shu'er's wombs were born? Upon hearing this sudden system prompt, Lu Chongxing couldn't help but feel invigorated, his face showing delight. He immediately knew that it was Zhou'er and Shu'er on Qingzhou Mountain who had given birth to their children. The lack of any throbbing sensation indicated that neither of the children possessed a spiritual root. I wonder what color hair and eyes the children have. Lu Chongxing thought to himself. He had always been quite curious about this matter. He had even sought out related materials before. But the books didn't give a clear statement, only mentioning that this was mostly determined by the bloodlines of both parents. Not dwelling on this further, Lu Chongxing took a deep breath, slowly exhaled and murmured, System, I want to draw a prize. Immediately, a faint red virtual prize wheel appeared. I wonder what he'll draw this time. As Lu Chongxing looked at the prize wheel, he muttered to himself, and then said directly, Start the draw. With a thought, the faint red wheel suddenly burst into a golden brilliance and started spinning. After 5 seconds, the golden light slowly diminished, turning notch by notch until it finally stopped on the magical treasure's prize. Ding! Congratulations, host, for obtaining a magical treasure. Black Dragon Magical Bead. Reward has been issued to System Space. The host can check at any time. A black bead with a faint image of a flood dragon appearing and disappearing emerged from the prize wheel, accompanied by a system prompt sound. Magical treasure? Good heavens, I finally got something I wanted. Seeing the reward he drew this time, Lu Chongxing's eyes lit up as he showed a mixture of excitement and joy. From low to high, the magic artifacts used by cultivators are categorized as magic artifact, spiritual artifact, magical treasure, spiritual treasure, and heaven-reaching spiritual treasure. They correspond to different realms such as the Qi refinement realm, foundation establishment stage, core formation stage, nascent soul stage, and divinity transformation stage respectively. Only a nascent soul immortal can wield a magical treasure. Naturally, Lu Chongxing was unable to wield a magical treasure. However, the practice art he cultivated, 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art, allowed him to refine a magical treasure into his body to accelerate his cultivation. Previously, even a severely damaged fragment of a magical treasure had significantly advanced his 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art. With a whole magical treasure in hand, wouldn't he soar to new heights? Lu Chongqing immediately looked into the system space. He wanted to see what grade his newly obtained magical treasure was and what effects it had. Magical Treasure, Black Dragon Magical Bead. Grade: Middle Grade Magical Treasure. Description: Formed from a profound treasure bead as a container and refined with the soul of a third-rank evil flood dragon, it emits dark brilliance when activated, which can suppress the physical body and taint the mental spirit. When used to its extreme, it can command the soul of the evil flood dragon inside the bead to attack the enemy. The longer it is used, the more ferocious the evil flood dragon's might becomes, making it harder to control. Black Dragon Magical Bead. A middle-grade magical treasure. It can burst with dark light, suppress the physical body, taint the mental spirit, and also control the soul of the evil flood dragon to attack. After reading the description and grade of the magical treasure, Lu Chongqing was very satisfied. He felt that a middle-grade magical treasure was already quite impressive. Reading the effect description of the magical treasure, he knew it was inclined towards attack. As for the functionality and effects of the magical treasure, Lu Chongqing wasn't too concerned. He had been hoping to obtain a magical treasure mainly for the practice of the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art. As for the functionalities and effects, he felt they were of little consequence, anything decent would do. However, having attack capabilities on this magical treasure is also good. After all, the treasure bone technique within the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art says that by nourishing the treasure bones with a magical treasure, the bones can exhibit part of the power of the magical treasure. Once my treasure bones are nourished, perhaps I can directly wield the soul of the flood dragon inside the bead to slay enemies. Lu Chongqing licked his lips, quite looking forward to the effects of nourishing his treasure bones with this magical treasure. He thought about how, once his treasure bones were ready, facing danger, he could just activate the Black Dragon Magical Bead and command the soul of the flood dragon to strike at his enemies. Anyone seeing a cultivator at the Qi refinement realm or foundation establishment stage utilizing such a technique for attack would certainly be caught off guard and dumbfounded. Suddenly, with a thought, Lu Chongqing extracted the Black Dragon Magical Bead from the system space. A treasure bead the size of an adult's fist landed in Lu Chongqing's hands. The bead was heavy, likely weighing several hundred pounds. It felt slightly cool in his hand, but was not uncomfortably cold. The surface of the bead was extremely pure, devoid of any impurities, with only a faint flow of dark light. Inside the bead, a miniature ink-black flood dragon could be distinctly seen coiling around. So this is a magical treasure. Lu Chongqing curiously examined the Black Dragon Magical Bead in his hand. This was his first time seeing a magical treasure. However, after looking at it for a while, he didn't notice anything special and thought it was just as though. Lu Chongqing went to the restroom on the 3rd floor, ready to start refining the Black Dragon Magical Bead. He was eager to refine the bead into his body to cultivate with the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art and nourish his treasure bones. After all, not long ago, he had successfully started the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art, letting him vividly experience the benefits of body refinement bringing forth strength and robustness. While his original body was quite good and very healthy, it was nothing compared to the feeling of body refinement success, with a body full of power, and the ability to spend the night with 10 women. Lu Chongqing activated the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art, utilizing his mental spirit and spiritual power to begin refining the Black Dragon Magical Bead before him. Under the refining of his mental spirit and spiritual power, the Black Dragon Magical Bead emitted streaks of black air, spiraling out and ascending. The soul of the evil flood dragon coiling inside also became animated at this moment, vivid and lifelike, as if it was about to break out of the bead. Lu Chongqing remained composed, knowing this was the activated state of the magical treasure, and continued to refine it with his mental spirit and mana. Chapter 117. The Great Tao should not be so insignificant, one should not have so few Tao companions. Just like that, time trickled by. After a long while, Lu Chongqing opened his eyes with a wry smile and said, "Who would have thought that to refine this Black Dragon Magical Bead and merge it into my body would not be an easy task? With my current peak at the 6th level of energy refinement, trying to fully refine this treasure bead will probably take 2 to 3 months." During the refining process just now, his spiritual power was completely depleted, and yet he hadn't even managed to refine 1% of the bead. Having previous experience with refining a black metal block, he knew that acquiring magical treasures and wanting to refine them was no easy feat, but he hadn't expected it to be this difficult. 2 to 3 months then, since it's a magical treasure, requiring some time is normal, he said. Lu Chongqing exhaled lightly and stowed away the black dragon magical bead. He took out a spirit stone, sat down to cultivate, and recovered his spiritual power. He had yet to draw any talismans today. After his spiritual power had mostly recovered, Lu Chongqing took out the talisman-making tools and, in the talisman room, drew 2 middle-grade talismans and 2 superior-grade talismans. Now that his cultivation level was sufficient, there was no need to use top-grade talisman paper and ink for making superior-grade talismans. Ordinary superior-grade talismans could be drawn using advanced-level talisman paper and ink, which would also save quite a bit of cost. After all, continuously using top-grade paper and ink to draw talismans, but not being able to immediately convert them into spirit stones, could still be quite costly. After finishing making talismans, and seeing that it was getting dark, Lu Chongqing thought it was better to seize the day and decided to visit the White Jade Tower ahead of time. With over 300 spirit stones on him, he could afford to take in and help a few more unfortunate women. And he would also see if there were any such people with a spiritual root. After all, if he truly wanted to have more children with spiritual roots, it depended on having women with spiritual roots. Out of his 30 children, only 4 possessed a spiritual root. Among those 4, Chu Zhenjin and Lu Miaoyun each had a child with one. The other wives had borne so many children, yet only 2 had a spiritual root. This inevitably made Lu Chongqing hold a sliver of hope for the children in the wombs of Xiao Yuyao, Xiao Qing, and Guan Xin. After informing the shopkeeper Zhang Shan, Lu Chongqing headed out toward the White Jade Tower. "Brother Lu, where are you off to?" Yu Maoqing called out to Lu Chongqing as he passed by the Jade Meal Pavilion. Since the two lived across from each other and their shops were located nearby, they would greet each other and chat briefly when they met. Especially after Yu Maoqing found out during a conversation some time ago that Lu Chongqing was not a Lu family disciple but a son-in-law to the family, he felt as though he had found a kindred spirit. He began to complain to Lu Chongqing about marriage, expressing some regrets about marrying into such a cultivation family. While it was like having the backing of a large tree, it also often led to a wife who was very strict after marriage. Being a spirit cooking chef himself, constantly busy, he only had 10 spirit stones of pocket money a month. To such sentiments, Lu Chongqing naturally could not relate. However, it was not good to say too much, so he simply responded with a few agreeing words, acknowledging the difficulty and sharing that his own wife was quite understanding in this regard. At that time, Yu Maoqing had not detected the tone in Lu Chongqing's response, and would come to drink and chat with him when he had nothing else to do. It wasn't until a short time later that Yu Maoqing saw all the ladies in Lu Chongqing's courtyard, which made him feel numb and silent. At that moment, the way he looked at Lu Chongqing changed. Of course, they did not become distant over just this one incident. They would still greet each other as usual, ask how things were going, and invite each other to eat at the Jade Meal Pavilion. But he stopped asking Lu Chongqing out for drinks to complain about his marital life. He knew that complaining to someone like Lu Chongqing was like playing the lute to a cow. The latter simply could not understand his anguish and lacked any empathy. "I feel like the house is a bit short on maids. I'm planning to go check out the White Jade Tower," Lu Chongqing replied with a smile. He then cordially invited Yu Maoqing. "Brother Yu, would you care to join? Let me tell you this White Jade Tower." Scram, scram, scram! Yu Maoqing immediately darkened his face and waved his hand hastily when he heard this. "Brother Yu, as the saying goes, one should not walk a narrow Dao alone, nor should one have too few companions on the Dao. Therefore the more companions you have, the more steadfast the great Dao in your heart." Lu Chongqing joked, taking strides toward the White Jade Tower in search of the Dao. Watching Lu Chongqing's retreating figure, Yu Maoqing sighed softly, a hint of envy involuntarily appearing in his eyes. He knew that Lu Chongqing had over a dozen maids at home, and yet he was still off to wander around the White Jade Tower. Thinking of his own situation, he sighed softly. At this moment, a woman in her 30s, with a beautiful face, approached Yu Maoqing and said, "Husband, are you envious of Lu Chongqing? Do you also wish to take a few more concubines?" Upon hearing this, Yu Maoqing shivered, not expecting his wife to be nearby. he promptly replied with a serious face. No, not at all, there's absolutely nothing like that. Although he harbored such desires, this was something he definitely could not admit. However, before he could further explain, the woman sighed and murmured, Husband, it has been 20 years since I married you. In these 20 years, I've only borne you Fenger, Yuner, Yuer, and Schwer. Among them, only Schwer has a spiritual root and can cultivate. Perhaps you should take a few more concubines. That wouldn't be right, would it? Yu Maoqing hesitantly replied. It's fine, husband. Whatever type you like, I will help you pick, the woman said with a gentle, soft smile. How many would you like, 3, 5, or 10? No need, just one will do, one is enough, Yu Maoqing said with a smile on his face. Great, Yu Maoqing, when I married you, I was a pure maiden. Not only did I secure this pavilion for you, but I also bore you 4 children, and now you think I'm old and want to take a concubine, don't you? Chapter 118. The Great Tao should not be so insignificant, one should not have so few Tao companions. The woman's face, which had been filled with smiles just a moment ago, suddenly turned cold, and with a snort, she turned and left. Seeing this, Yu Maoqing sighed to the heavens, knowing he had been caught in his own trap again. He hurried after her, trying to appease. My wife, listen to my explanation. My love for you is as clear as the sun and moon. How could I possibly entertain such thoughts? It was just a joke. When Lu Chongqing arrived at the White Jade Tower, the red-dressed girl who greeted him already remembered him. She immediately approached with a beaming smile and led him to a room on the 2nd floor. Master Lu, it's been a long time. Jianyang has truly missed you. In the room, dressed in a black phoenix bird misty silk long dress and oozing charm, the seductive Feng Jianyang greeted Lu Chongqing with a demure smile. Heh, Manager Feng, I've come this time to buy a few more maids. I wonder if the White Jade Tower currently has any spiritual root maids, preferably priced under 300 spirit stones. Lu Changsheng's gaze unconsciously swept over the fullness of her neckline and the plump thighs under her dress. Then he spoke. Every time he came to the White Jade Tower and saw this Feng Jianyang, he couldn't help but exclaim that this woman was charming to the bone. This made him think, if she was just a manager at the 9 Dragons Market's White Jade Tower, how alluring the managers, or those higher up, in an immortal city, or at the headquarters might be. Master Lu, please enjoy the tea. I will go see if there is an appropriate candidate for you, Feng Jianyang said with a soft alluring smile, not minding Lu Changsheng's gaze. After pouring tea for Lu Changsheng and bending over, she swayed her slender waist and clicked out of the room. Before long, Feng Jianyang returned, placed 2 jade slips on the table, and said, I've just checked, and currently, there are only 2 girls who meet Master Lu's requirements. Please see if you are interested. All right. Lu Chongqing nodded, picked up a jade slip, and placed it on his forehead, sensing it with his spiritual mind. Immediately, he saw a 15 or 16-year-old girl with delicate features, a petite and adorable figure. Her cute face held a look of grievance and reluctance. Without thinking, he knew this girl must have been like Xiao Yu Yao, ending up in the White Jade Tower due to various circumstances and reasons. And so, he intended to rescue them. Lu Chongqing picked up the 2nd jade slip. The image inside was of a 27 or 28-year-old woman with attractive features and a shapely figure, but she appeared somewhat weak, with a hint of numbness in her eyes. What are the circumstances of these 2 maids, and what are their prices? With his experiences from the previous 2 times, Lu Chongqing was now quite experienced and asked directly. This woman has a Qi Refinement 2nd level cultivation level and possesses a 9th grade spiritual root. She is priced at 210 spirit stones. This woman has a 7th grade spiritual root but no cultivation level, and she is priced at 300 spirit stones. Feng Jianyang pointed to the 2 jade slips and introduced. Why does she have a 7th grade spiritual root but no cultivation level? And isn't the price for a 7th grade spiritual root more than this? Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng's eyebrows rose, questioning her. He had a general idea of the pricing for maids at the White Jade Tower. A maid with a 7th grade spiritual root would normally cost at least 500 or 600 spirit stones. This woman originally had a Qi Refinement 5th level cultivation level, but her Qi Ocean Core was damaged, resulting in the loss of her cultivation level, which is why she has no cultivation level. And that is exactly why, despite having a 7th grade spiritual root, She only costs 300 spirit stones, explained Feng Jionyang. I see, said Lu Chongxing, nodding slightly. No wonder when he had looked at her in the jade slip just now, she seemed somewhat fragile. Presumably, her body was only beginning to recover and was still weak. Looking at it this way, this young matron must have suffered much more than the young girl. In that case, he decided to choose to rescue this young matron. Without delay, Lu Chongxing spoke. Please show me her detailed information, Manager Feng. Feng Jionyang brought out the information about this maid. Lu Chongxing scrutinized it closely. The woman's name was Xiao Yueru, 30 years old, much like Xiao Yuyao, from a small qi refinement family. Because her family was destroyed, she ended up at the White Jade Tower. She had been injured in battle, damaging her qi ocean core, resulting in the dissipation of her cultivation level, and she was unable to cultivate further. There were no lingering side effects. She was capable of bearing children. However, she was not a virgin and had given birth to a child before. This should also be a factor in White Jade Tower's assessment of the price. All right, I'll take her. After inspecting, Lu Chongxing stated directly. Since he had come with the purpose of buying a maid, he didn't have many scruples. Moreover, she could be considered a decent woman. She wasn't like the celestial maidens from Drunk Immortal Pavilion or Spring Abundance Building, whose red lips had been tasted by thousands. As for cultivation level, Lu Chongxing didn't care at all. What he valued was the woman's 7th grade spiritual root. If it weren't for the fact that this woman's qi ocean core was damaged, based on the previous prices at White Jade Tower, a woman with a 7th grade spiritual root would normally cost at least 500 to 600 spirit stones. In Lu Changsheng's opinion, for him, this was quite the bargain. Immediately afterwards, Lu Chongxing paid a deposit of 60 spirit stones and waited for the person to be delivered. He also spent 50 spirit stones to purchase 4 ordinary maids without spiritual roots. Lu Chongxing asked White Jade Tower to send these 4 maids to his residence later on. He didn't want to take them back with him. Otherwise, it would be too conspicuous to walk down the street with them. For such a small request, Feng Jionyang readily agreed, indicating there was no problem. Just as he was about to leave White Jade Tower, Lu Chongxing thought of something. He asked Feng Jionyang, Manager Feng, does White Jade Tower have any women with a spiritual body? About spiritual bodies, he had only read some brief mentions in books before. It was only because of the matter with the woman in the colorful dress that it occurred to him. Considering White Jade Tower had such extensive connections, there might be women with spiritual bodies. Feng Jionyang seemed slightly startled upon hearing this. Then she softly smiled coquettishly. Of course we do. Lu Chongxing was somewhat surprised upon hearing this. He hadn't expected that within White Jade Tower, there would indeed be women with a spiritual body. It seemed White Jade Tower was even more impressive than he had imagined. Seeing Lu Changsheng's surprise, Feng Jionyang chuckled lightly and continued. However, individuals with a spiritual body are extremely rare, 1 in 10,000, and even White Jade Tower doesn't see many of them. Plus, even if there are any, they are generally thinking of finding a Dao companion through White Jade Tower, hoping to marry a satisfactory gentleman. If young Master Lu is looking to spend spirit stones to buy a maid, I'm afraid he will be disappointed. Even we at White Jade Tower don't have many maids with a spiritual body, and many people come to us with reservations. If young Master Lu is interested, he can first pay a deposit, and when White Jade Tower finds someone with a spiritual body, we will notify him. With a charming smile on her face, Feng Jionyang spoke unhurriedly. I was just asking casually. Hearing this, Lu Chongxing was not really disappointed, as he found this more normal. Otherwise, if even women with spiritual bodies were being casually sold at White Jade Tower, their power would be quite terrifying. He didn't ask further. Now, women bearing a spiritual body were a bit out of reach for him. Not something he could contemplate at this stage. If he happened to meet one, that would be more than good enough. But to spend money at White Jade Tower to buy a maid with a spiritual body, that was out of the question. With that money, he might as well buy a few maids with middle-grade spiritual roots. After all, the grade of the parents' spiritual roots directly affects the potential of their children's spiritual roots. If both parents have lower-grade spiritual roots, it is difficult to have children with middle-grade spiritual roots. If among the parents, one has a middle-grade spiritual root, then the probability of their children having middle-grade spiritual roots becomes much higher. Immediately after, under Feng Jiuniang's escort, Lu Chongxing left White Jade Tower. As Lu Chongxing was on his way back, he heard a commotion from a nearby shop. Turning to look, he saw a familiar figure. P.S. Because I used to upload chapters right after writing them without saving any drafts, the update times were irregular. From now on, I'll update at this fixed time. Chapter 119. Do you have any strange habits? _1 within the Nimble Gown Pavilion. Second Miss Lu Miaohuan, holding a deep blue dress, prepared to pay. Lu Miaohuan, I already reserved that dress. Could you pick another one? Just then, a fair-skinned young lady around 18 or 19, with a petite figure, pressed her palm on the table and spoke indifferently. Zheng Yongshan, you say you reserved it and that means it's reserved? Did you pay for it? Second Miss Lu Miaohuan immediately frowned, her expression cold as ice, and spoke in a hostile tone. She then turned to the shopkeeper and asked, Shopkeeper, tell me, did she pay a deposit for this dress? The shopkeeper, clearly intimidated by the question, didn't want to offend either side. How many spirit stones? I'll pay you now. The young lady in the yellow dress let out a light snort. Seeing this, Lu Miaohuan immediately knew the other party hadn't paid a deposit. She couldn't help but sneer derisively. Miss Zheng, you said you'd reserved it, how come you haven't even paid a deposit? Did you reserve it with just your eyes? Lu Miaohuan, I haven't paid yet, and neither have you? I've reserved this dress, so it naturally belongs to me. The young lady in the yellow dress retorted defiantly. You haven't paid a deposit, and you call that reserved? According to Miss Zheng, does that mean if you just lay eyes on something, it's reserved? Then, in the Nine Dragons market, no one else needs to buy anything. Before purchasing anything, they should first check whether Miss Zhang has reserved it. Lu Miaohuan wore an expression of cold, noble beauty, looking down on others with a side eye, and spoke contemptuously, dripping with mockery. I've never said such a thing, Lu Miaohuan, don't twist my words. I've told you, I have my eyes on this dress, I've reserved it, so I've decided to buy it today. The young lady in the yellow dress raised her voice, speaking coldly as well. There was already a conflict between her and Lu Miaohuan, and they did not get along. Now, not only were her close girlfriends nearby, but the shop was full of people watching them. At this point, it was no longer just about a dress, but also about face. There was no way she could back down. Ladies, we will have new stock of this dress in 3 days. Why don't one of you wait? The shop is willing to offer a 20% discount at that time. The shopkeeper, faced with this scene, felt somewhat overwhelmed and spoke in a humble tone. However, neither of the ladies paid him any attention. For both women, it was no longer just about a dress at this time. Zheng Yongshan, I really can't understand. What exactly are you fighting me over? Lu Miaohuan glanced at the young lady in the yellow dress before her lips curled into a sneer, puffing up her impressive chest with utter disdain in her eyes as she said, Can you even wear this dress if you buy it? Don't you see yourself, flat in the front and flat in the back, just like a board? Whoosh! As soon as she said this, the other people in the shop gasped. They felt that for a woman, Lu Miaohuan's words were just too harsh, too damaging. Lu Miaohuan, you're going too far. Upon hearing these words, Zhang Yongshan was trembling with rage, her voice becoming shrill. Although petite and cute in stature, she was just starting to develop nicely. But compared to Lu Miaohuan, she suddenly seemed insignificant. Moreover, which female could remain calm and composed in the face of such humiliation? Too far? I'm just telling it like it is. Isn't there a mirror in this shop? Go take a look for yourself and you'll understand. Lu Miaohuan watched the young lady in the yellow dress' annoyed expression, laughed lightly with contempt filling her voice. Seeming to think her mockery wasn't sufficient, Lu Miaohuan, with her long legs, took a dress for a girl of about 10 from a rack nearby and said to the young lady in the yellow dress, Zheng Yongshan, I think this suits you quite well, why don't you try it on? If you can't afford it, don't just reserve it with your eyes. Consider it a gift from me. Lu Miaohuan was already tall, and with her slim high-heeled shoes, she stood a full head and more above the young lady in the yellow dress. At this moment, she looked down upon her from her lofty height, speaking coldly and mockingly, pushing her derision to the extreme. Under such provocation from Lu Miaohuan, the young lady in the yellow dress anger flared up. Unable to contain her humiliation and rage, she snapped. Her voice rose into a scream. Lu Miaohuan, I'm going to rip your mouth apart. In a state of extreme anger. People are capable of anything. Normally, Zhang Yongshan also had the temperament of a pampered young mistress, used to being coaxed and spoiled. Now, not only personally attacked but publicly humiliated, she completely lost her composure and raised her hand to strike Lu Miaohuan. Lu Miaohuan caught Zhang Yongshan's palm in a swift motion and flung it away, saying, Zhang Yongshan, stop making a spectacle of yourself, I don't have time for your nonsense. Furthermore, your figure hasn't developed, just like a child's, and your fists are as soft as a child's. Go back and drink some milk from your mother to grow some body and strength. Whoosh! As these words came out, everyone in the store and the onlookers couldn't help but gasp in astonishment, marveling at the venom of the Lu family's young Mississippi Lu Chongqing, who happened to be passing by the entrance, overheard Lu Miaohuan's words and his lips twitched. He suddenly felt that the younger Miss Prior treatment of himself, merely snorting at him with a disdainful face, was indeed quite generous and merciful. Otherwise, with such a biting tongue, he would have struggled not to retaliate. Ah! Lu Miaohuan, I'm going to kill you. At that moment, Zhang Yongshan, her eyes red with fury and spiritual power surging within her, let out a high-pitched scream. A fireball appeared in her hand, which she thrust towards Lu Miaohuan. Seeing this, the onlookers in the middle of the marketplace couldn't help but cry out in shock, some even screaming. Chapter 120. Do you have any strange habits? Not only is fighting forbidden in the Nine Dragons market, but at such a close distance, casting a spell leaves no time for a reaction. If Lu Miaohuan hadn't been wearing a magic artifact for protection, she might not have died from the fireball, but she would have been seriously injured. Not good. Lu Chongqing, who had been watching the excitement like everyone else, was shocked at the scene unfolding before him. He hadn't expected the girl in the yellow skirt to actually make a move, let alone use a spell. He also realized that if Lu Miaohuan hadn't had a magic artifact to protect her, there would have been trouble. In an instant, he stepped forward, and bolstered by the green wind boots, his body turned into a blur, appearing in front of Lu Miaohuan, with his green robe billowing, displaying a body-protecting technique. The fireball hit Lu Changsheng's chest but was blocked by the protective spell on his robe. Lu Miaohuan was also stunned for a moment, not expecting Zhang Yongshan to actually attempt to kill her, and she was surprised by Lu Changsheng's intervention. But in the next moment, she looked at the girl in the yellow skirt with a cold expression and said, Zhang Yongshan, you dare to attempt murder? As soon as she finished speaking, Lu Miaohuan's hand erupted with flames, and she slapped toward Zhang Yongshan. However, a ding from Zhang Yongshan's earring produced a faint glow, extinguishing the flames in Lu Miaohuan's hand, turning it into a crisp-sounding slap on her face. Lu Chongqing was somewhat taken aback by this. It appeared the girl in the yellow skirt had the temperament of a spoilt young lady, acting without considering the consequences. But this second miss wasn't any better off, as the two were evenly matched in their recklessness. Lu Miaohuan, I'm going to kill you. Kill you. Zhang Yongshan was humiliated and enraged by the slap, her voice becoming sharp and almost hysterical as she fumbled in her storage bag for a talisman to activate. Damn it! Seeing the talisman, Lu Chongqing immediately recognized it as a superior-grade talisman. He knew that the children of cultivation families always had some life-saving methods when out and about. If the two were to continue, the situation would escalate. Acting quickly with a swift move, he snatched the talisman from her hand and said, Miss, calm down, please calm down. Lu Chongqing, step aside. I want to see if she has the ability to kill me. Although Lu Miaohuan didn't understand how Lu Chongqing had appeared, she was equally angry, with two talismans appearing in her hand, ready to retaliate. Shan, sister, let it go, let it go. At this time, two of Zhang Yongshan's close friends stepped forward to mediate. They hadn't expected a minor issue to lead to such a confrontation between Zhang Yongshan and Lu Miaohuan. They couldn't just sit by and watch the situation escalate further. That would not only draw the attention of the Nine Dragons Marketplace's enforcers. If one of them got hurt, it would involve the families behind them, the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain and the Zheng family of Wugong Ridge. Second miss, let it go please. Seeing people persuading them, Lu Chongqing also promptly urged Lu Miaohuan to stop. He wouldn't have gotten involved if he hadn't seen the other party make a move, fearing that Lu Miaohuan might get into trouble. Now that he was involved, he couldn't just watch the two of them continue to quarrel and sought to defuse the situation. Humph! At his words, Lu Miaohuan snorted softly, putting away the talismans in her hands. She may have been impulsive, but she was not foolish and knew continuing the argument would make things difficult to resolve. Miss, let's stop here, please. I apologize on behalf of the 2nd Mississippi. If we continue, the enforcers will be here soon. Although your families have some influence, you were the one who struck first, and it won't look good if things get out of hand. Lu Chongqing, seeing Zhang Yongshan's eyes red with rage, returned the talisman to her with a soft tone. Although he thought her attempt to kill was a serious problem. Such matters, if left to escalate further, wouldn't do either party any good. Eventually, one side had to back down and offer a way out. Otherwise, there would be no end to it. Lu Chongqing, I did no wrong, why apologize to her? Lu Miaohuan was not pleased when Lu Chongqing apologized on her behalf to Zhang Yongshan. My lady, please just do me a favor and keep quiet. Lu Chongqing immediately said to Lu Miaohuan upon seeing Zhang Yongshan's anger flaring up again. Humph, Lu Miaohuan, you just wait for this. Zhang Yongshan regained her composure, aware of her impulsivity, took the talisman back from Lu Chongqing, and coldly said, looking at Lu Miaohuan with reddened eyes. She was about to leave, then paused, turned back, and added, Lu Chongqing, right? I'll remember you too. Lu Chongqing was somewhat speechless at this. Always amicable, he never offended anyone, and he hadn't expected to be remembered over such an incident. Who's afraid? Lu Miaohuan was about to retort, not willing to yield, when Lu Chongqing, seeing where this was headed, quickly covered her mouth to stop her. Allowing Lu Miaohuan to retort would probably lead to Zhang Yongshan doing the same, and the argument would become never-ending. At this moment, Lu Chongqing thought to himself that it was a miracle these young ladies had managed to live this long without someone killing them over their attitudes. Lu Miaohuan felt the warmth of Lu Chongqing's palm on her mouth and was momentarily startled. She had never been so close to a man before, and Lu Chongqing's actions made her nervous and flustered. Hastily removing his hand from her mouth, her face flushed with a hint of embarrassment, she said, Lu Chongqing, what are you doing? Lu Chongqing also felt the moisture of her lips against his palm. Realizing his behavior was a bit overboard and somewhat rude, he immediately showed a hint of apology and said, Sorry, I acted hastily in a moment of urgency. Please forgive me, 2nd Mississippi. Chapter 121. Do you have any strange habits? Humph, whose side are you on to actually help outsiders bully me? Lu Miaohuan's rosy lips pursed slightly as she spoke in annoyance. 2nd Miss, it's best to forgive and forget. Continuing this fuss isn't good for you, so let's just let it be. Lu Chongqing spoke in a gentle voice. Enough already, you're about the same age as me, yet you talk like you're my father, all long-winded. Lu Miaohuan bit her lip and said impatiently. Then she put down the gown in her hands, not caring for it any longer, and strode out of the shop with long determined steps. Truly has the temper of a young lady. Lu Chongqing watched Lu Miaohuan's retreating graceful figure, shaking his head and feeling as if he'd asked for the annoyance himself. But in that situation, he couldn't just watch Lu Miaohuan get hit by the fireball. After all, he was protected by 4 magic artifacts and was unafraid of such ordinary spells. And it was unknown whether Lu Miaohuan had any protective magic artifacts on her. Though it was highly likely she had them, what if she didn't? Lu Chongqing gave the shopkeeper a slight bow and then left the shop too. Stepping out of the shop, he saw Lu Miaohuan standing on the side, waiting for him with an aloof and noble air. Lu Chongqing, what are you doing here? Lu Miaohuan asked as soon as Lu Chongqing appeared. I just happened to be passing by, and when I heard you were arguing with someone, I took a longer look. Lu Chongqing replied offhandedly. Hearing this, Lu Miaohuan, remembering her recent disdainful demeanor being witnessed by Lu Chongqing, felt somewhat embarrassed. She then placed her hands behind her back and gently swayed her body, whispering in a low voice, Thanks for just now. She was aware that if the situation had really escalated, it would have been difficult to settle things without either side giving in. and she felt somewhat touched by Lu Chongqing appearing to shield her from the fireball technique. Although she did have a protective artifact, the sudden appearance of Lu Chongqing, standing tall in front of her, stirred some emotions within her. Lu Chongqing raised an eyebrow upon hearing this. He hadn't expected the second miss to actually thank someone, to thank him. He moved a bit closer and teased. "What was that, second miss? Your voice was so soft. I didn't hear clearly." If you didn't hear it, forget it." Lu Miaohuan huffed and quickly walked away. She wasn't someone who easily thanked others. But considering how she'd never shown Lu Chongqing a friendly face before, and how Head still stood in front of her in a dangerous moment, and even apologized to Zhang Yongshan on her behalf, she felt that saying thanks wasn't too much. Seeing this, Lu Chongqing knew that the second miss thanking him must have taken some courage. He couldn't help but smile, catching up with her and saying, I heard it, I just thought I might have heard wrong. I wanted to confirm it, but if you're going to say thanks, shouldn't you show a little more gratitude? What do you want?" Lu Miaohuan asked, her face cool and dignified. "It's nothing much, just improve your attitude a bit and call me brother as a sign of thanks." Lu Chongqing said jokingly. Lu Miaohuan was stunned by his words. She bit her lips slightly, her clear eyes showing surprise. A delicate blush spread over her exquisite cold features, like that of a bashful young girl. She shot Lu Chongqing a glance and uttered 3 words. "In your dreams." Then those long legs wrapped in black silk stockings, stepped in slender high heels, quickened their pace, her figure swaying enticingly. Lu Chongqing was amused by Lu Miaohuan's half-annoyed, half-charming reproach and couldn't help but smile. He found teasing this seemingly aloof and noble second miss quite amusing. At that moment, Lu Chongqing noticed that after walking briskly for a stretch, Lu Miaohuan's pace had slowed down again. She even walked slower and slower, at a pace well below that of a normal person. Seeing this, Lu Chongqing's lips couldn't help but curl up slightly, revealing a trace of a smile, and he too slowed down his pace. He watched Lu Miaohuan move at such a slow pace, admiring the graceful and lithe figure of her from behind. It had to be said, the second miss figure, especially those long legs clad in black silk and high heels, was truly stunning. Only Feng Jianyang of the White Jade Tower could compare. But such things, everyone has their own flavor. Lu Chongqing already had so many wives, maids and concubines, especially the maids purchased from the White Jade Tower not long ago, who all had looks and figures that were top-notch, but in his eyes, compared to this second miss, they certainly lacked that certain flavor. When it comes to physical appearance, after a certain point, it's all about status, temperament, and other aspects. Lu Miaohuan walked slowly for a while, and upon seeing that Lu Chongqing didn't catch up to coax her, she immediately felt some displeasure. She had walked away without paying him any attention, yet he didn't know to come and apologize. After walking slowly some more, Lu Miaohuan couldn't stand it any longer and decided to outright ignore Lu Chongqing, promptly walking away at a normal pace. Seeing that Lu Miaohuan had resumed her normal speed, Lu Chongqing immediately quickened his steps and in an instant came up beside her, giving her quite a scare. "All I wanted was for you to say thanks with a better attitude. But if you don't want to, that's fine, why get angry? It's not polite at all." Hearing Lu Chongqing's complaint, Lu Miaohuan felt so irritated that she didn't know where to vent her anger, thinking it was too annoying, and again she thought about ignoring him and walking away. But she also felt that it might not be very nice. Indeed, it wasn't very polite. Lu Miaohuan felt that even though she really disliked Lu Chongqing, according to her usual temperament, she wouldn't be concerned about what's not so nice or polite. Yet she subconsciously didn't think about why she was behaving this way. She was also somewhat afraid to consider why she was acting so out of character. "Lu Chongqing, why on earth did you decide to move out and live by yourself?" Lu Miaohuan asked as if it was no big deal. "Every time you see me, second miss, you look disgusted and displeased, so I thought it over and decided to move out and live by myself." Lu Chongqing then said, "Do you even know how to speak?" Lu Miaohuan huffed, her tone anything but pleasant. She remembered that at the initial meeting for the arranged marriage, Lu Chongqing was actually very eloquent, making conversations very comfortable. Yet now, he was so irritating. "Isn't that what you asked me? Why I moved out?" "I'm just telling the truth," Lu Chongqing said with a shrug, looking helpless. "Well then, to express my gratitude for today, from now on, I won't be disgusted by you." Lu Miaohuan snorted softly, speaking with a face of cold and noble beauty. No worries, feel free to be disgusted if you like, don't make yourself sick over it. And having seen it so many times, I've gotten used to it. I actually think you look pretty cute when you're disgusted. Lu Chongqing said casually. He felt that when chatting with a miss of such a temper, one has to do the opposite. Playing along with her was absolutely out of the question. Anyway, he didn't have too many pursuits regarding this second miss. If he did fancy anything, it was her body, so he was very unconcerned. Are you sick in the head? Lu Miaohuan, infuriated, kicked Lu Chongqing right away. She felt that she was being very patient in speaking to Lu Chongqing, yet every sentence he spoke was irksome. Lu Chongqing dodged lightly, and as he looked down, he saw Lu Miaohuan's delicate feet adorned with a pair of elegant crystal shoes, the exposed skin wrapped in a layer of black sheer stockings. The little feet in the high heels seemed to merge together, the curves flowing smoothly without showing a trace of abruptness, utterly captivating. As her small foot kicked out, the shapely calf peeked out from underneath the skirt hem through the thin-as-wing stockings, showing the skin's pale delicate texture. Simply leg play year series material. Irresistible to fantasize about cradling those jade feet and lovely legs in one's hands and thoroughly enjoying them. What are you looking at? Seeing Lu Chongqing looking down at something, Lu Miaohuan also lowered her head to look. She even lifted the beautiful and icy silver-shining stiletto heel back and forth, checking for something, but found nothing out of the ordinary. The next moment, as if realizing what Lu Chongqing was looking at, she felt a hint of secret satisfaction and pride, and her mood improved a lot. Then, glancing at Lu Chongqing with a bit of scrutiny, she spoke coldly. Do you have some kind of strange fetish or something? P.S. Sigh, it was supposed to be just a short segment, but as I wrote, I couldn't stop, and now I don't know how to end it. I'll try to write less of this kind of plot in the future. Let's see if I can crank out another chapter today. If not, there will definitely be 2 updates tomorrow. Chapter 122. Stunning beauty like wolves and tigers, breaking down one's will. Under 1. What strange habits could I possibly have? Lu Changsheng's eyes were clear, and he spoke with a forthright demeanor. Watching the candid expression on Lu Changsheng's face, Lu Miaohuan eyed him suspiciously for a moment before shifting her gaze away without saying much. After all, if you look, you look. Dressing up like this was meant to be seen by others. Although she usually confronted such gazes with a "what are you looking at? Keep staring and I'll gouge out your eyes" attitude or would directly scold them, at this moment, she didn't feel the slightest disdain or disgust towards Lu Changsheng's gaze. Instead, she felt a stealthy joy. She felt attractive, truly believing that she was the most beautiful. And so, the two walked side by side for a while. All right, I'm home now, see you later, 2nd Mississippi. When they reached an intersection, Lu Chongqing waved goodbye to Lu Miaohuan. He didn't have much to chat about with this second miss, and since he was home, it was natural to head back and take a bath. Seeing that Lu Chongqing only walked a short distance before leaving, without any intention to escort her or even asking if she wanted to visit and have a cup of tea, Lu Miaohuan pursed her lips in displeasure and huffed, saying, "Goodbye." Then, like a proud and aloof peacock, she left with the clack 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 of her high heels. Night fell. The white jade tower sent the 4 maids purchased by Lu Chongqing. Since Lu Chongqing couldn't be bothered to wait, all 4 maids were readily available stock. But Xiao Yueru, who possessed a spiritual root, would only arrive within a month after notification from White Jade Tower. Gao He, the neighbor, saw that Lu Chongqing had bought more maids and was somewhat speechless. He didn't frequently visit Lu Changsheng's home but invited Lu Chongqing to his place for tea instead because he felt it wasn't right to constantly visit when Lu Changsheng's house was full of female family members. Seeing Lu Chongqing buying more maids, Gao He couldn't help but think that he should be more cautious. After all, he had a daughter at home. Though his daughter was still young, Lu Changsheng's appearance and temperament were attractive to both young and old, which caused him worry at this moment. Of course, Lu Chongqing was not aware of Gao He's thoughts. With the addition of 4 new maids, he noticed another problem. That was, the yard was becoming too crowded. If this trend continued and a few more people were added, the dwelling would be too small, and they'd have to live crammed together. "Sigh, that's about enough, I need to take it easy," Lu Chongqing said, shaking his head. The Lu family and Lu Miaoyun wouldn't say anything about his buying maids. But having acquired 10 children in just over half a year since coming to Nine Dragons Market was indeed a bit fast. Moreover, maintaining such a group of maids in Nine Dragons Market was no small expense. Since these maids were carrying his children, he naturally couldn't treat them unfairly. Their daily consumption of spirit rice and spirit food, and also the long-term residence permits they needed in Nine Dragons Marketplace, added up to no small sum once the numbers grew. Ordinary people couldn't afford to sustain such costs. Without much thought, Lu Chongqing let the new maids assist him with his bath. The next afternoon, Lu Miaoge came to the spiritual talisman shop. It was to thank Lu Chongqing for the matters concerning Lu Miaohuan. The Nine Dragons Marketplace was neither too big nor too small, and both the Lu and Zheng families had some influence within it, so it was normal for such news to reach both houses. To this, Lu Chongqing naturally said it was a small matter, nothing significant. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. Aside from the addition of refining the Black Dragon magical bead to Lu Changsheng's daily routine, there were no other changes. After half a month of refinement, he had almost cultivated a fifth of the Black Dragon magical bead. Of the 4 maids he had bought earlier, one had successfully conceived after receiving his favor. One day, a young servant came to the spiritual talisman shop. He was sent by the second elder to inform him. He mentioned that in 10 days they would be returning to Qingzhou Mountain and asked if Lu Chongqing would like to join them. Please tell the second elder that I will accompany him back at that time, Lu Chongqing replied immediately upon hearing the message. He hadn't been back in about 4 months. Now that the second elder was returning, he would naturally take the opportunity to visit his home. 6 days later, it was time for the spiritual talisman shop to receive new stock and inspect the merchandise. Lu Chongqing also informed Gao He in advance. With Gao He's help, the two completed the inspection of all the goods in 2 days. Brother Gao, I've troubled you this time, Lu Chongqing said, taking out 20 spirit stones. This was the wage they had agreed upon. Where does that come from, Brother Lu? I should be thanking you, Gao He replied, not standing on ceremony and cheerfully accepting the spirit stones. As a middle-grade talisman master, a daily wage of 10 spirit stones was quite a decent extra income for him. After taking the spirit stones, Gao He hesitated before saying, Brother Lu, there's something I'm not sure whether I should say. Oh, just speak your mind, Brother Gao. Is there really anything that should or shouldn't be said? Lu Chongqing raised an eyebrow and casually replied. As a resident talisman master in the spiritual talisman shop, I often drink and chat with talisman masters and shopkeepers from other talisman shops, so I have a rough idea of the situation in the marketplace's talisman shops and the quality rate of their goods. Given the reputation of your Lu family's shop, the defects in these goods seem a bit unusual. Especially for you, Brother Lu, who cancels contracts with different shops every few months. If this continues, I fear that you would have worked with every talisman master in the marketplace, Gao He started to say. Chapter 123. Stunning beauty like wolves and tigers, breaking down one's will. Upon hearing these words, Lu Chongqing immediately understood what Gao He meant. It was a sign that there were some issues with the supplies for the shop. Having been in the shop for so long, how could he not understand the ins and outs? The entire procurement, purchasing, and partnership of the spiritual talisman shop were left to the shopkeeper Zhang Shan alone. To claim there was not a hint of embezzlement or personal gain, he couldn't believe it at all. He had casually established a supplier title himself for collaboration. It obviously wouldn't be difficult for Zhang Shan to do the same. However, Zhang Shan had been working in the spiritual talisman shop for over 10 years, and his performance was decent for the most part of this past year, capable of doing things well. Hence, taking a little extra for oneself wasn't entirely indefensible. As long as it wasn't excessive, Lu Chongqing was willing to turn a blind eye. After all, the clearest water has no fish. Thank you for the reminder, Brother Gao. I also understand the principles behind it, Lu Chongqing said with a smile. It seems I've said too much, but then again, there isn't really any serious problem, said Gao Shan, realizing that his concern was unnecessary. Having interacted with Lu Chongqing for so long and having a good relationship, he worried that Lu Chongqing, being so young, might be kept in the dark, so he spoke out as a reminder. Brother Gao, willing to discuss this with me shows that you regard me, Lu Chongqing, as a friend. Lu Chongqing waved his hand, knowing Gao He meant well. He also knew what kind of person Gao he was, or else he wouldn't have asked him for help. Soon after, the two left the shop with a laugh and went to the Jade Meal Pavilion for a meal. Upon seeing the two, the owner of the Jade Meal Pavilion, Yu Maoqing, gave them a 20% discount and even offered a plate of appetizers for free. 3 days later. Second elder, Sister Miaoga, Lu Chongxing was bathing in the backyard. Upon hearing from the maid by he that the second elder and the young lady had come to visit, he promptly went to the living room. I originally intended to notify you to come directly to the great residence to stay, as we will be departing for Qingzhou Mountain early tomorrow morning. However, I thought you've been living by yourself for such a long time without us visiting, so we decided to come and see you. I hope we haven't disturbed you? In the hall, the second elder, clad in a green robe with a tall figure, held tea in his hand and said with a chuckle. Sister Miaoga, Lu Miaoga, sat elegantly in white to the side. How could that be? Second elder, your visit is most welcome, Lu Chongxing replied politely. Then, Lu Chongxing chatted with the second elder for a while and took the second elder and Lu Miaoga on a brief tour of the yard. During the process, the second elder noticed so many birds and swallows in Lu Changsheng's yard and couldn't help but shake his head, thinking that Lu Changsheng's reputation for loving the company of women was indeed well-deserved. How long has it been since he came to the Nine Dragons market? In just over half a year, he had taken in so many maids and concubines with outstanding looks and figures. When he saw several maids and concubines with bulging bellies, he frowned slightly and took a closer look. Eventually, he realized that almost all the women in the yard were pregnant. The second elder couldn't help but count them. 1, 2, 3, 11. After tallying the number of pregnant women, the second elder was instantly bewildered. He had not expected Lu Chongxing to be so prolific with his concubines and maids, not only having so many but also getting them all pregnant. Was the vitality of the young so exuberant? Instead of cultivation, drawing spirit talismans, or working, were they occupied doing other things? The second elder looked at Lu Chongxing and inquired, Chongxing, are these all your newly taken maids and concubines? Carrying your children? Even though he knew his question was redundant, as these women were obviously Lu Changsheng's maids and concubines, carrying Lu Changsheng's children, he couldn't help but confirm once more. Mainly because it was quite outrageous. For cultivators, indulgence in the pleasures of men and women could harm one's vital essence and affect the speed of cultivation. Even for cultivator couples practicing dual cultivation, they were extremely temperate, engaging only occasionally and never indulging excessively night after night. However, in Lu Changsheng's case, to have fathered 11 children in just over half a year was clearly overindulgence. Sister Miaoga, Lu Miaoga, pursed her lips and remained silent. But in her eyes, a faint sense of disappointment was visible. In her view, if Lu Chongxing were willing to focus on cultivation and the talisman path, there would be hope for success in foundation establishment after becoming a second-grade talisman master. She had also discussed these matters with Lu Chongxing before. But seeing Lu Chongxing bring Guan Xian to Nine Dragons Market, and now with so many maids and concubines, she couldn't help but feel disappointed. She knew that Lu Chongxing hadn't taken her words to heart. Yes, second elder, these are all my newly taken maids and concubines, carrying my children, Lu Chongxing replied, feeling somewhat embarrassed. He himself knew that in this world, as a cultivator, creating 11 children in just over half a year was relatively excessive. Although he hadn't felt this in his daily life, nor did he find it embarrassing, being questioned by the second elder brought up some embarrassment after all. After all, the latter was an elder to him. Especially with Lu Miaoga also present. Ah! The second elder sighed upon hearing this, shaking his head. At that moment, he gained a deeper understanding of Lu Changsheng's reputation at Qingzhou Mountain for marrying and indulging in the pleasure of many wives and concubines. He coughed lightly and then said to Lu Chongxing, Chongxing, the allure of beauty can be like wolves and tigers, eroding one's resolve. It is natural to occasionally enjoy and relax, but do not indulge too much in this, and instead, focus your time and energy on cultivation and the talisman path. The second elder spoke earnestly. Such matters, while outrageous, were a bit excessive. Chapter 124. Stunning beauty like wolves and tigers, breaking down one's will. But to say it was excessive, that wasn't quite the case. After all, It was his private life, and it wasn't right for him to interfere too much. Thinking of this, he decided that after returning home, he would speak to the fourth elder, asking him to offer some persuasion. Otherwise, from his perspective, Lu Changsheng's utter lack of restraint in his behavior would truly lead to his ruin. If that happened, it would be a great loss to the Lu family as well. No venture, no gain. Lu Changsheng really wanted to say this, but he still responded seriously and respectfully. What second elder said is correct. Changsheng will heed the advice. The other party was an elder after all, and since the matter was mentioned, he behaved and listened obediently. As for what to do in the end, it was still up to him. However, Lu Changsheng himself also planned to be a bit more frugal for a while, to save some money. He had previously wanted to buy vestment robes and beautifying spirit pills for his wives and children. But with his habit of spending as soon as he got money, the expenditures increased, and he couldn't save anything. This time returning home, he didn't have enough money to buy any decently valuable gifts. Seeing this, the second elder didn't continue to say much. Too much talk of such matters could only lead to annoyance. Then, Lu Changsheng left a message for Xiao Qing and went with the second elder and Lu Miaoge to the eastern district to the Lu family's large courtyard where they would stay. They were preparing to return to Qingzhou Mountain early the next morning. They arrived at the eastern district's large courtyard, and the living quarters arranged for them were still the same from the last time. Knock, knock, knock. Lu Changsheng was meditating in his room when he heard a knocking at the door. He got up and opened the door. Miaoqing. Outside stood Lu Miaoqing. Changsheng, this is the spirit stone I borrowed from you. As soon as Lu Miaoqing saw Lu Changsheng, he directly took out 20 spirit stones and spoke. Lu Changsheng was somewhat surprised. He hadn't expected Lu Miaoqing to come and repay the debt voluntarily. To tell the truth, he had written off those 20 spirit stones as a loss. The other party's behavior was truly unexpected. Miaoqing, you are too polite. It was unnecessary to make a special trip. Lu Changsheng smiled and accepted the spirit stones. He could see that Lu Miaoqing now looked much better, spirit-wise. Probably because he hadn't been going to read books and savor tea for a while. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible to save up any spirit stones. What trouble? I've owed them to you for so long. Lu Miaoqing clapped Lu Changsheng's shoulder and enthusiastically said, Changsheng, next month's Spring Abundance Building is getting a new batch of tea. I'll treat you, let's go together. Lu Changsheng's mouth twitched slightly. He thought Miaoqing had given it up, but it seemed he was mistaken. He waved his hand, declaring earnestly, Miaoqing, I never go to such places. Changsheng, let me tell you, this new tea, many of them are unopened. Lu Miaoqing continued speaking. No, I'd better not go. Lu Changsheng asserted firmly. With so many wives and maids at home, what need was there to go to these places? It was simply a waste of money and vitality. With that money, couldn't he buy a couple of maids, buy some gifts for his wife and children? Wouldn't that be delightful? Okay then. Seeing this, Lu Miaoqing found it dull and didn't persuade further. Lu Changsheng watched Lu Miaoqing's retreating figure, musing whether Miaoqing enjoyed himself to the fullest, then cultivated for health for a while before going back to his merry ways. A repeating cycle? Otherwise, why had he looked so drained before, and now perfectly normal despite not abstaining? Early the next morning, the second elder led Lu Changsheng and several other Lu family members out of the Nine Dragons Market through the eastern gate. He then took out a palm-sized yellowish-brown flying boat. Activated by mana, the flying boat immediately flew from his palm, transforming into a vessel about 10 feet long, with formation patterns drawn both inside and out. Get on! The second elder commanded. Lu Changsheng stepped onto the flying boat and found a seat to sit down. The flying boat had a total of 7 seats, and beneath the seats, sockets embedded with spirit stones could be seen. He knew this type of flying boat could be propelled by inserting spirit stones, replacing the need for cultivators to use mana to drive it. Otherwise, solely relying on a cultivator's mana to propel it, it would be impossible to achieve long-distance flying. The consumption would be too great. Let's go! After several people were seated, the second elder also boarded the flying boat, formed a spell with his hands, and caused a thin layer of water screen barrier to rise around the edge of the flying boat. Soaring into the air, it transformed into a streak of light shooting forward. At this speed, it's even faster than the iron feather eagle by a bit. If we squeeze in a bit, we can fit about 10 people, Lu Chongqing thought to himself as he watched the flying boat's speed. He found the device quite good. If he had one of his own, it would be much more convenient to travel to and from the Nine Dragons market with his wives and concubines in the future. However, the price of such a flying boat would be at least 1,000 spirit stones. And a flying boat is relatively more conspicuous. Without a bit of strength, it is easy to attract unwanted attention on the way. 1.5 days later, the flying boat landed in front of Qingzhou Mountain. As everyone disembarked, Lu Chongqing cupped his hands in farewell and headed straight for his home. Husband, the husband is back. Daddy, daddy, daddy. Just as Lu Chongqing walked into the courtyard, his wives and concubines and several children inside saw him and called out joyfully, crowding around him and hugging him. This scene brought a smile to Lu Chongqing's face, filled with warmth, as he picked up the 2 children who ran over. However, facing so many children, he could only put them down immediately, taking turns hugging each child. He also embraced his several wives. Although he had many maidservants in the Nine Dragons market, he missed the warm feeling of being with his wives and children here. He had been with his wives and children here for so many years, and they had developed a lot of affection for each other. Before long, Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenzhen among other women also came with their children, their eyes filled with tender love as they approached Lu Chongqing. Lu Chongqing noticed that the little ones in their arms seemed to have grown a bit. Very adorable. He then looked at the children of Shuer and Zhouer. Both children had hair like their mothers. One red, one blue. But their pupils were black. Seeing his 2 somewhat unconventional children, Lu Chongqing also found them quite cute. Then, Lu Chongqing spent time playing with the children and chatting with his wives, listening to some of their stories and sharing his own. Meanwhile, within Qingzhou Valley, at another estate. Second brother, are you telling me that since Chongqing moved out to live on his own in the Nine Dragons market, he has been indulging in the pleasures of women day in and day out, not only taking in a bunch of concubines but also getting each and every one of them pregnant? With more than a dozen children? The 4th elder asked in surprise after hearing the 2nd elder's words, finding it hard to believe. She was different from the 2nd elder. Having interacted with Lu Chongqing for so long, she knew he liked having children, but she didn't imagine him to be addicted to the pleasures of the flesh. Usually, he was very diligent and serious in his cultivation and talisman making. But now, hearing the 2nd elder's words, she didn't know what to say. Because, in her view, this behavior was indeed a bit over the top. Originally, when the Lu family took a son-in-law by marriage, they only asked for 50 children in 20 years. Yet, in just over half a year, Lu Chongqing had impregnated 11. If he continued at this rate, would he still cultivate or practice talisman making? Do I look like someone who likes to joke around? The 2nd elder saw the 4th elder's disbelief and immediately said, Miaoga was there at the time, she also saw everything, you can ask Miaoga if you don't believe me. I wouldn't say much about this matter, but as an elder who is usually close, you can talk to Lu Chongqing at some point, and also let Miaoyun keep an eye on him. Otherwise, if this continues, I'm really afraid he will squander his talent on women. The 2nd elder sighed. What he minded was not Lu Chongqing taking concubines. After all, it was quite normal for a man to be fond of women. However, in his view, Lu Chongqing's behavior was indeed a bit excessive. Women can be as ferocious as wolves and tigers, they can undermine a man's will. And Lu Chongqing, being so young with an unstable will, was very likely to lose control of himself in this regard. If this kept up, a remarkable talent in the talisman path could very well fall from grace. All right, I'll go check it out tomorrow. Ask Chongqing what's going on, what the deal is, the 4th elder said with a serious expression, nodding her head. She had a favorable impression of her grandson-in-law Lu Chongqing. She still did not believe that Lu Chongqing would completely drown in the pleasures of flesh and neglect his cultivation and talisman making. She planned to go see for herself the next day and find out what was happening, and to also check Lu Chongqing's skills in talisman making. Then she would know the truth. Chapter 125. I'm not pretending anymore. Actually, I am a spiritual body. _1 Lu Chongqing naturally didn't know that the 2nd elder had gone and spoken to the 4th elder about his activities at the Nine Dragons marketplace. He was still playing in the courtyard with a group of little ones. The courtyard had been turned into something resembling a kindergarten playground by him. At this time, Lu Miaoyun stated that it was getting late, and she needed to go to White Deer Mountain Villa to pick up the children. In the previous few months, Lu Pingan, Lu Wuyo, Lu Wuyu, and Lu Sheila had been sent to study at White Deer Mountain Villa on Qingzhou Mountain. Therefore, Lu Miaoyun and others usually took turns picking them up and dropping them off. Upon hearing it was time to pick up the kids, Lu Chongqing immediately expressed his desire to go along. He, as a father, had not yet had the chance to pick his children up from school. Soon after, Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoyun left home, heading towards White Deer Mountain Villa. On the way, Lu Chongqing also shared with Lu Miaoyun about his life in the Nine Dragons marketplace. He bought quite a few maids, and fathered quite a few children. One reason was that he felt there was nothing about this that needed to be hidden. The family would find out sooner or later. Additionally, he had a feeling that this matter would probably spread from the second elder to the fourth elder's ears, eventually reaching the ears of Lu Miaoyun and the other women in the family. Since that was the case, it would be better for him to mention it to Lu Miaoyun, his main wife, earlier. Moreover, since the second elder had a flying boat and it could accommodate a few more people, he planned to take Lu Miaoyun and a few others with him on his return trip to the Nine Dragons marketplace. Otherwise, coming back only once every 6 months meant that they would be apart for quite a long time. By the time they went to the Nine Dragons marketplace, Lu Miaoyun and the others would see for themselves, so it was better to give them a heads up to prepare them mentally. When Lu Miaoyun heard that Lu Chongqing had found so many maids, she fell silent for a moment. However, she didn't say anything and just playfully requested that Lu Chongqing spend more time with them in the coming days. Having a wife like this, what more could a husband ask for? Lu Chongqing mused to himself. While he could indeed take many maids and concubines if he wished, and Lu Miaoyun wouldn't have much to say about it, he still hoped his wives could understand and accept the arrangement, making the inner palace more peaceful. If not, the constant rivalry and jealousy in the palace would drive anyone crazy. And this was something he greatly appreciated about Lu Miaoyun. Husband, next year's spiritual root testing ceremony is coming up, and Pingan and the others will have to participate. Lu Miaoyun, holding on to Lu Changsheng's arm, spoke out. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng's heart missed a beat. Every year on February 2nd, Qingzhou Mountain held the spiritual root testing ceremony. It was to test the spiritual roots of all children aged 5 or 6. Lu Pingan, Lu Wuyo, Lu Wuyu, and Lu Sheila were also approaching the age and would be eligible to participate next year. But Lu Chongqing was very clear in his heart that none of his 4 children had a spiritual root. Yes, who knows if any of them have a spiritual root? Lu Chongqing sighed lightly as he said this. At this moment, his heart could not help but feel a sense of sadness. He had a lot of affection for the children like Lu Pingan. Husband, maybe Pingan and the others all have spiritual roots. Lu Miaoyun, holding Lu Changsheng's hand, said softly. She knew that such a thing could be cruel for parents. If there were no spiritual roots, their futures would be divided between the worlds of immortals and mortals. She couldn't help but think of her own son, Lu Yun. If he also had no spiritual root, he would have to be sent into the secular world as well. Fine. With such matters, let nature take its course. If they have spiritual roots, they can learn talisman making with me in the future. If not, they can still lead a good life in the secular world. Lu Chongqing pinched his wife's hand and said with a laugh. He had long considered such matters and had prepared himself mentally. It was just that now, with Lu Miaoyun suddenly bringing it up, the reminder that the day was fast approaching made him feel a touch of sorrow. As they walked and talked, the couple arrived at White Deer Mountain Villa. The villa wasn't very large, about the same size as the estate where Lu Chongqing lived. Inside, there were many other men, women, and children coming to pick up kids, all from the Lu family. Chongqing, Miaoyun, you're here to pick up the kids? Brother Chongqing, sister Miaoyun. Chongqing, little sister Miaoyun. Some recognized Lu Chongqing and Lu Miaoyun, and greeted them. Lu Chongqing didn't know many of them. Some he had seen but didn't know their names. Lu Miaoyun, on the other hand, knew most of them and greeted them warmly. Before long, the sound of a bell ringing came from the villa, and many children came out. They were all quite young, mostly 5 or 6 years old, with a few around 7 or 8. Because children without a spiritual root would be sent away from Qingzhou Mountain by the age of 8 or 9 at the latest. After all, Being born on Qingzhou Mountain and having seen the cultivation world but being unable to cultivate oneself was a cruel reality to face if one remained there. Daddy X4. Mother Yun X4. Just then, 2 boys and 2 girls saw Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoyun and called out. They then hurried over with their short little legs. As Lu Chongsheng saw his own children, he immediately greeted them with a smile and scooped up Lu Wuyo and Lu Shila into his arms. Did you miss Daddy? Lu Chongsheng asked as he pulled out sugar-glazed haws he had prepared from his storage bag and passed them to the girls. We did. The 2 little girls replied crisply. Then, Lu Chongsheng turned to Lu Pingon and Lu Wuyu, who were standing aside somewhat bewildered, and handed each a sugar-glazed haw. He also pulled out one more and offered it to Lu Miaoyun. Since he had many children in his family, Lu Chongsheng would directly buy these spirit fruit sugar-glazed haws wholesale. Lu Miaoyun, having received one as well, couldn't help but flash a sweet smile, her eyes curving like crescent moons. She took a bite from the sugar-glazed haw and then extended it for Lu Chongsheng to take a bite. Chapter 126. I'm not pretending anymore, actually I am a spiritual body. So it went, as the family of 4 walked home, with Lu Chongsheng carrying 2 children, and Lu Miaoyun leading the other 2 by the hand. So, what has your teacher been teaching you at school? Lu Chongsheng asked aloud. He was quite curious about what the erudite tutor hired by the Lu family usually taught the children. He worried that the education within such a cultivation family might involve brainwashing from a young age, indoctrinating the children to be loyal to the family and such. Soon enough, the children began chirping to Lu Chongsheng about their lessons, all while munching on candied haws. It was basic enlightenment education for children, teaching them reading and writing, without any trace of brainwashing. Listening to his children's stories, Lu Chongsheng felt a lot more at ease. That night, a separation can be sweeter than a honeymoon. During Lu Chongsheng's previous visit home, Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenzhen were pregnant and couldn't share his bed. This time, Lu Chongsheng naturally had to make up for it. He also wanted to show the 2 women the strength he had gained from his recent success in body refinement. The next day, well past sunrise, Lu Chongsheng heard a knock at the door. After being told the 4th elder had come to visit, he dressed with the help of Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenzhen and proceeded to the living room. Grandma! Grandma! When Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoyun arrived in the living room, they immediately saw the 4th elder clad in a green dress, her black hair flecked with silver, lovingly cradling a baby in her arms. It didn't take much thought to realize she was holding Lu Yun. Although the 4th elder was fond of Lu Chongsheng, she didn't extend this affection to every one of his children. It was just that she had a particular fondness for the great-grandson born to her granddaughter. Hee, it seems Grandma has come at an inappropriate time, the 4th elder said with a chuckle, lifting her gaze to the couple. She could tell at a glance that her granddaughter and grandson-in-law had probably just risen from bed and teased them with her remark. Lu Miaoyun blushed at the comment. Chongsheng only returned yesterday, and he was preoccupied with accompanying his wives and children. He neglected to visit Grandma, and hopes for her understanding, Lu Chongsheng said, his demeanor easy and composed. He sensed the 4th elder's visit wasn't just a simple check-in on her great-grandson. Otherwise, there would have been no need to inform him and Lu Miaoyun. Hee, Grandma was just missing my dear great-grandson and thought to visit, seeing as you Chongsheng have returned, the 4th elder said heartily. Soon, she chatted with Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoyun about everyday family matters. When the conversation was nearly over, the 4th elder turned to Lu Chongsheng and said, Chongsheng, you've been away for some time. Let Grandma see how your talisman-making skill is faring, to make sure it hasn't slipped. The 4th elder stated this goal of her visit. After all, the words spoken by the 2nd elder yesterday compelled her to make sure Lu Chongsheng was in good shape. But she wouldn't outright mention the concerns about Lu Chongsheng being too absorbed in pleasures of the flesh and fathering children. Instead, she used the pretext of checking his talisman-making skill to see if his cultivation or talisman-making had suffered any neglect. If there was no neglect, all the better. If there had been, she would have a reason to admonish him, to prevent him from succumbing to indulgence. Chongsheng has returned this time also wishing to consult with Grandma and asks for her guidance, Lu Chongsheng murmured to himself, having anticipated the 4th elder's purpose. He spoke earnestly. Then he stood up, moved to a table, and took out his talisman-making tools from a storage bag. Seeing this, Lu Miaoyun took little Lu Yun from the fourth elder's arms and stepped out of the room, so as not to disturb her husband while making talismans with the baby's fussing. Making middle-grade talismans wasn't a challenge for Lu Chongqing, even with a child's noise. He could even manage it with one hand while holding a child in the other, but naturally, he couldn't show that now. After Lu Miaoyun left with the child, Lu Chongqing began crafting talismans under the watchful eye of the fourth elder, his magic artifact pen in hand dutifully etching the talisman. He was making a middle-grade Earth Escape talisman, which the fourth elder had previously taught him. Before long, Lu Chongqing completed the Earth Escape talisman smoothly and expertly. Chongqing, you've become so proficient with the Earth Escape talisman? Seeing Lu Chongqing fluently complete the talisman, the fourth elder's face immediately lit up with pleasant surprise. Just over 4 months ago, she had started teaching him to craft the Earth Escape talisman. But at this moment, not only had Lu Chongqing successfully crafted it, but he did so with practiced ease, achieving a success rate of around 70 to 80%. This came as a delightful surprise to her. She realized at once that Lu Chongqing had by no means neglected the talisman path during his time in Nine Dragons Market. It's all thanks to your initial guidance, Grandma, Lu Chongqing said with a modest laugh, continuing. Grandma, not only have I mastered the Earth Escape talisman, but in my recent explorations, I've also made inroads into the Frost talisman, though I'm still not quite proficient and would like to seek your guidance. Since he had an inkling of the fourth elder's reasons for her visit, Lu Chongqing naturally had to play his part well and put on a good show. He had already been considering that his frenzied acquisition of concubines and servants might not sit well with the family. The Lu family was bound to have some concerns. Therefore, he thought it over and concocted a reason or excuse for himself. What? You've made progress with the Frost talisman? The fourth elder, hearing this, could hardly maintain her composure. Her graceful facade slipped for a moment. Her eyes widened with shock and disbelief as she gazed at Lu Chongqing. Her look resembled Duan Yanqing's when he learned that Duan Yu was his own son. Astonished disbelief. Yes, Grandma, I've indeed made progress, but I still need more practice, Lu Chongqing replied to the elderly lady, managing not to betray any emotion, thinking to himself that he may have overplayed his hand. Chapter 127. I'm not pretending anymore. Actually, I am a spiritual body. Okay, show me how you draw a Frost talisman, said the fourth elder as she took a deep breath. The Frost talisman was a middle-grade talisman of similar difficulty to the Earth Escape talisman. But the problem was that she had never taught Lu Chongqing the Frost talisman. It was just over 4 months ago that she taught Lu Chongqing the Earth Escape talisman. For Lu Chongqing to have reached such proficiency with the Earth Escape talisman in 4 months was already incredibly surprising. Yet now, Lu Chongqing was telling her that not only had he mastered the Earth Escape talisman, but he had also managed to grasp the basics of the Frost talisman on his own. How could she not be shocked? Under the fourth elder's watchful eye, Lu Chongqing clumsily began to draw the Frost talisman. As expected, the first attempt naturally ended in failure. When you're drawing, the flow of your spiritual power isn't smooth enough, which causes it to dissipate a bit. On seeing this, the fourth elder gently pointed out the issue in a mild tone. Yes, grandmother, Lu Chongqing nodded, then continued drawing again. But it was still a failure. The fourth elder continued to identify the problem. However, her look at Lu Chongqing was different now. She could tell that Lu Chongqing did indeed have a certain degree of proficiency with the Frost talisman. At this moment, Lu Chongqing took a sip of white jade 100 flowers wine and started his third attempt at drawing. Finally, under the fourth elder's gaze, Lu Chongqing fortunately managed to successfully draw the Frost talisman. Although it's still not proficient, it's evident that you have indeed grasped the basics of the Frost talisman. The fourth elder looked at the Frost talisman, her expression full of surprise and delight, but also somewhat incredulous. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she would have never believed that Lu Chongqing could become so skilled with the Earth Escape talisman in just over 4 months, while also mastering the basics of the Frost talisman. This talent for talisman making was simply completely beyond what Lu Chongqing had displayed before in his talismanic aptitude. Chongqing, how did you do it? I heard from the second elder that during this period at Nine Dragons Market, you have taken quite a few concubines into your residence, some of whom you are indulging in. The fourth elder began, her tone also uncertain what to say next. She had actually planned to use this check on his talisman-making skill as an excuse to give Lu Changsheng a little scolding. But to her surprise, Lu Changsheng's talisman-making skills had not only not deteriorated in the slightest. They were unexpectedly much more advanced than before. She was momentarily dumbfounded. She even doubted whether the second elder had been deceiving her. After all, how could someone who spends his days indulging in pleasures and fathering children have so much energy to devote to talisman making? Upon hearing the fourth elder's words, Lu Chongqing thought to himself that the second elder had indeed told her about these matters. He fell silent, saying nothing. "It's fine, as long as your cultivation and your pursuit of the talisman path are not delayed," said the fourth elder, not pressing him further upon seeing his silence. After all, with Lu Chongqing performing so excellently in talisman making, what more could she say? Hearing this, Lu Chongqing bit his lip and responded, "I won't hide it from you, grandmother, and you might not believe these words. I have found that after being intimate, drawing talismans afterward feels extremely smooth. Even those aspects of talisman making I didn't understand or couldn't figure out, after being intimate more frequently, my thoughts started to clear up much more, and drawing talismans felt almost effortless," Lu Chongqing stated. This was an excuse Lu Chongqing had come up with after some thought, to justify why he seemed so naturally gifted on the talisman path, as well as why he had taken multiple wives and concubines to bear his children. As for how plausible this reason sounded, it wasn't too far-fetched within the cultivation world. Not to mention that there was a precedence that could very well explain what Lu Chongqing had said. Spiritual body. In the cultivation world, there are a myriad of spiritual bodies, such as the 5-element spiritual body that boosts cultivation, the charming female body that is beneficial for dual cultivation, the calamitous poison body for poison cultivators, the supreme sword bone for sword cultivators, and many more. Among these, there are certainly some that are specifically related to the talisman path. These specific bodies make one naturally attuned with the great Tao of talismans, allowing rapid advancement in talisman making. As for whether there's a sort of body that improves one's talisman making skill through intimacy, Lu Chongqing didn't know if such a thing existed. But the world is vast. Who's to say for certain? Moreover, spiritual bodies can be either manifest or latent. The Lu family, being merely a foundation establishment family, could not be expected to have a deep understanding or extensive research into spiritual bodies. That's why Lu Chongqing dared to attribute his condition to having a potentially latent spiritual body. As for whether this pretense would bring any trouble, Lu Chongqing wasn't worried. After all, his condition wasn't that outlandish. It was simply a relatively unusual aptitude for the talisman path. The Lu family certainly wouldn't cause any trouble over such a matter. Perhaps on the contrary, due to this development, his talent and potential would be further acknowledged, thus adding another layer of expectation to him. Chapter 128. Chongqing, Grandma will speak on my own's behalf. Under Sir 1, after intercourse, drawing talismans becomes very smooth. Even some parts one didn't understand or know clear up after frequent intercourse, and my thoughts become more fluid? Upon hearing this, the fourth elder was startled and fell into deep thought. Although what Lu Chongqing said sounded preposterous, she did not doubt the truth of his words. After all, anything is possible in the cultivation world. Not to mention improving talisman skills through intercourse, she had heard of even more absurd and unimaginable things. Moreover, after interacting and understanding him for so long, she had a certain trust in Lu Chongqing. She felt there was no need for him to deceive her with such words. Furthermore, the facts were right before her eyes. Lu Chongqing had proved what he said through his actions. Could it be that Chongqing possesses some kind of physique related to the talisman path? The fourth elder speculated in her heart. Only that reason could explain Lu Changsheng's situation. A peasant boy, with no prior exposure to cultivation or the talisman path, yet displaying exceptional talents in the realm of talisman making. Through self-study and pondering, in a year and a half, he became an elementary talisman master. And despite spending much time and energy on matters between men and women, he still progressed rapidly in the talisman path. She had considered this issue before, but had merely thought that Lu Chongqing was exceptionally talented in talismans and also very diligent and hard-working. Now, considering the idea of a spiritual body, the thought that Lu Chongqing might have a talisman-related spiritual body made everything seem reasonable. "Grandma, do you know what's going on with me?" Seeing the fourth elder deep in thought, Lu Chongqing asked. Chongqing, I have never heard of such a situation, the fourth elder shook her head and inquired. Besides this, do you have any other abnormalities? No, before I just felt that my hands were better at making talismans and my thoughts flowed better after intercourse, but I didn't think too much about it or pay it too much attention. It was also after this visit to the Nine Dragons market that I gradually realized intercourse could impact my talisman making, so I became somewhat indulgent for a while, Lu Chongqing explained. He wanted to attribute his condition to his spiritual body, but he couldn't say anything too excessive or preposterous. As long as he could justify his situation and gloss over it, that would suffice, to avoid having to worry about the Lu family's attitude when taking a wife, concubines, and having children in the future. Chongqing, I suspect that you might possibly possess a special talisman-related physique? After a moment's thought, the fourth elder articulated her speculation. A talisman physique? Grandma, I had also suspected that I might have some spiritual body, but there's so little information on spiritual bodies, and I haven't found any similar cases to mine, Lu Chongqing continued. Information regarding spiritual bodies is scarce, and I don't know much about it either. My speculation is based on the fact that spiritual bodies are different from spiritual roots and can represent all manner of strange constitutions. The fourth elder sighed slightly. Then, looking at Lu Chongqing with a solemn expression, she admonished, Chongqing, concerning this matter, you must not tell anyone else. If others come to know of it, it could very well bring you danger and trouble, the fourth elder warned. Grandma, rest assured, I definitely won't tell anyone else about this, and I would only mention it to you, Lu Chongqing assured her. Very well, Chongqing, don't worry, I will keep this matter a secret for you, the fourth elder said, feeling very reassured upon hearing his words. She thought to herself that this grandson-in-law was not only affectionate but also treated her as his own kin. She then said, Chongqing, concerning your situation, I shouldn't comment too much on your matters with women, but remember, Chongqing, the talisman path is important, but bodily health and cultivation level are the foundation. If your health and cultivation level fall short, you will also find it hard to make advancements in the talisman path, so you must not indulge excessively in matters between men and women, and pay attention to your health and cultivation. Regarding taking a wife and concubines, as long as it's not excessive, I will speak for you to the Lu family and Miaoyun, the fourth elder said thoughtfully and seriously. She knew that Lu Chongqing with his constitution couldn't possibly stay away from the pleasures of women, hoping only that he would proceed gradually, not to deplete the reservoir to catch the fish and ruin himself in the process. Grandma, I understand that too, Lu Chongqing immediately nodded. As long as you understand that, it's fine. The fourth elder nodded, saying no more, knowing that her grandson-in-law, aside from his indulgence in women and having children, was commendable in other aspects. He was sensible and knew what was important. She figured that his recent indulgence in Nine Dragons Square could be attributed to this constitution. Suddenly, she felt that Lu Chongqing's preferences and his physique were indeed a perfect match. Chongqing, you should also be somewhat cautious about having children. Otherwise, too many children in the future will be a considerable burden on you and affect your well-being, the fourth elder added, thinking of Lu Chongqing's situation with over 10 children in just over half a year. In the family, children can be a source of strength and a legacy, but beyond a certain point, they can also become a liability. Their needs can distract one's energy, and at times, draw one into turmoil. Grandma, you know that I'm a man without great ambitions, and I don't covet that fleeting hope of foundation establishment. I'm already content with my current life, and my plan is to have many children for a full household in the future. If any of the children have a spiritual root, I'll fully support their cultivation so that they can have an easier and further future, he declared. Chapter 129. Chongqing. Grandma will speak on Miaoun's behalf. Lu Chongqing spoke, saying the following. This was not his first time expressing his aspiration publicly, so he appeared very sincere in his speech. Okay, Grandma understands, just take care of yourself, and don't neglect your cultivation, the fourth elder sighed softly upon hearing this. She also knew that Lu Chongqing did not have grand ambitions and did not have a great pursuit in the realm of cultivation. It was only in the matter of wives and concubines bearing children that he had a certain obsession. But considering Lu Chongqing's 9th grade spiritual root, she couldn't say much about it and chose to be understanding. Moreover, for the Lu family, they hoped for the same from Lu Chongqing. A person who only sought a stable life with a warm family was much better than one full of ambition, solely focused on the path of cultivation. Thank you, Grandma. Lu Chongqing bowed with a clasped fist in gratitude. Knowing that this matter was now in the past, and with this spiritual body as a cover, whether for taking wives, concubines, having children, or advancing in the talisman path, explanations would now be much more convenient. We're all family, no need for such courtesy with Grandma, the fourth elder said with a loving smile on her face. Then she proceeded to give guidance on drawing the frost talisman. After teaching the frost talisman, and considering Lu Changsheng's physical condition, knowing that his trip to Nine Dragons Market would mean he wouldn't return for some time, she taught Lu Chongqing 2 more middle-grade talismans. It wasn't to make him learn them right away, but just to explain them to him, so that he could more easily learn to explore them by himself in the future. After finishing the talisman-making lesson, the fourth elder also held her heavy grandson for a while and chatted with Lu Miaoyun before leaving. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. During this time, apart from spending time with his wives, Lu Chongqing also visited Li Feiyu. He met with this good friend to catch up and chat. Li Feiyu was still immersed in back-breaking work, acting as a butcher, nurturing spirits, casually working as a purifying craftsman, and even raising 2 black hogs at home. Knowing that advice would be futile, Lu Chongqing didn't urge him further. They simply had a meal, chatted, and when leaving, Lu Chongqing gave red envelopes to the children. Let's go. Lu Chongqing, accompanied by Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin, headed out, preparing to go to Nine Dragons Market. This time, Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin were also going to Nine Dragons Market with him. This was after discussion with his numerous wives and concubines. Each trip, he would take 2 wives to stay in Nine Dragons Market for a short while. 2 people were chosen because the second elder's flying boat had limited seating. Too many people would mean potentially no seats available. Before leaving, Lu Chongqing also entrusted the business of trading talismans with Hong Yi to Lu Lanshu. If Hong Yi's people arrived, she could just take the talisman box to complete the trade. After all, such matters were simply a case of exchanging goods for money. Now, his dealings with Hong Yi had expanded, from the original 3-month deal of 30 low-grade talismans to 50 low-grade talismans and 10 middle-grade talismans. Lu Chongqing and the 2 ladies arrived at the gates of Qingzhou Mountain, where they saw the second elder and 2 other Lu family disciples waiting. Yesterday, Lu Chongqing had already informed the second elder in advance about taking Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin on the flying boat to Nine Dragons Market. Second elder. Second elder. Grandpa second. The 3 greeted the second elder with a salute. Since you've arrived, let's get going, the second elder said with a smile, nodding. He then released the flying boat and had everyone get on board. Chu Zhenjin, experiencing her first flight on a flying boat, was visibly nervous, holding tightly onto Lu Chongqing. As the flying boat took off, she looked around curiously and would timidly lean to whisper into Lu Changsheng's ear. But even these whispers, no matter how quietly spoken, could be heard by everyone else. In such a manner, after a day and a half, the flying boat landed safely in the outskirts of Nine Dragons Market. Lu Chongqing arranged for long-term identity passes for Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin. Even though the women were only going to live there for about half a year, short-term passes were only valid for half a month, so it was better to get long-term ones. After bidding farewell to the second elder, Lu Chongqing led the 2 ladies to their residence. Miss. Little Qing, nearly 6 months pregnant, was sporting a baby bump. Seeing Lu Miaoyun, her face suddenly flushed with a hint of shame. Initially, Lu Miaoyun had sent her to Nine Dragons Market with Lu Chongqing to keep an eye on him, and now she was greeting her, heavily pregnant. Miaoyun's sister, Zhenjin's sister. Guan Xian also called out to the 2 women. Following that, Lu Chongqing introduced Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin to the other women in the courtyard. Greetings, madam. Greetings, madam. Greetings, madam. Xiao Yuyao and several other maids saluted. Although most of these maids were also pregnant, since they had entered this world, the inevitable hierarchy between wives, concubines, and maids was still evident. Even though Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin had already been informed in advance about the multitude of wives and concubines Lu Chongqing had in Nine Dragons Market, seeing a courtyard full of women, all pregnant, they couldn't help but feel a little jealous. Lu Chongqing noticed the slight jealousy of his 2 wives. After making introductions, He took them out shopping, dining, and enjoying themselves. The two women had been living a monotonous life in Qingzhou Valley. In Nine Dragons Market, indulging in shopping and entertainment made them extremely happy, dissipating any minor displeasure they had. Over these 3 days, Lu Chongqing spent over 100 spirit stones shopping and having fun with the two ladies. With Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenzhen joining the household, Lu Changsheng's life did not change much. He just moderated his actions regarding intimate relations a bit. Chapter 130. Chongqing, Grandma will speak on Miaoun's behalf. It was not like before, sleeping together under a large quilt each day. In the blink of an eye, more than half a month had passed. Lu Chongqing received news from White Jade Tower that the maid he had purchased, Xiao Yueru, had been delivered and asked him to come over for the inspection. Immediately, Lu Chongqing went to White Jade Tower and looked over his new maid. She had a dignified and pretty appearance, with black hair neatly done up, giving off a mature wife's charm. Her almond-shaped eyes were dull, but under her high nose bridge, her lips were plump. She would probably look very sweet if she smiled. She wore a light blue dress that showcased her tall and slender figure, with a full and proud bust that almost burst through the fabric. Although she lacked elegance, she was very eye-catching, and her full hips were also shocking, heavy like honey peaches. Yueru has seen young Master Lu. Xiao Yueru's face was still somewhat pale and haggard, her voice soft and gentle, like a willow brushing against water. Miss Xiao, are you willing to be this young master's maid? Lu Chongqing looked at Xiao Yueru before him and asked indifferently. Lu someone, even if he spent money, never coerced anyone. Xiao Yueru also knew her fate. She couldn't refuse such matters. Moreover, the young man in front of her, from his looks and temperament, didn't seem like a bad person. She immediately showed a hint of a smile and bowed gracefully. Yueru is willing to be the young master's maid. Her smile was indeed sweet, like a delightful young girl, perfectly blending mature charm with the amorousness in her eyes and eyebrows. All right, Manager Feng. I'm quite satisfied. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing also showed a faint smile and spoke to Feng Jianyang. After completing the transaction with Feng Jianyang, holding on to Xiao Yueru's spiritual contract, he took her home with him. On the way, Lu Chongqing directly spoke to Xiao Yueru, saying the reason he bought a maid was to have children. As long as she could give birth to several children, he would not mistreat her. Regarding other things, he said nothing further, nor did he inquire about Xiao Yueru's circumstances. After all, having gone through White Jade Tower, these karmic matters were no longer his concern. He also didn't have the ability to help sort things out. After speaking these words, Lu Chongqing suddenly felt a hint of trance. He remembered, back when he was expelled by Qing Yun's sect, Lu Yuanding appeared and talked about finding a son-in-law, having 50 children in 20 years. At this moment, he and the past Lu Yuanding seemed strikingly similar. This is life. Lu Chongqing felt somewhat moved in his heart. Then he laughed lightly and said, whether good or bad, one should live without regrets. Back home, because of Xiao Yueru's matter, Lu Chongqing had already talked to Lu Miaoyun. So after bringing her home, Lu Miaoyun had no objections. He arranged for Xiao Yueru to share a room with another maid. Since Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenzhen had arrived, the courtyard seemed a bit cramped. Thus, a few maids ended up sharing rooms, 2 or 3 to a room. In the day-to-day life, Lu Chongqing saw that Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenzhen were often bored, so he occasionally taught the two talisman making. He thought of leveraging his own talisman making skill to see if he could make both women into talisman masters. Lu Miaoyun had been verified by the fourth elder, and indeed lacked the talent for it. Chu Zhenzhen was a bit better, but still not notably so. This made Lu Chongqing sigh inwardly, fearing that having his children learn a skill would be difficult as well. Without any talent, one could only rely on money. However, skills built up by money alone had their limits. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, over a month had passed. Xiao Yueru became pregnant under Lu Changsheng's care. And the child in Xiao Yuyo's womb was also born. To Lu Changsheng's disappointment, this child did not possess a spiritual root. Half a month later, in the spiritual talisman shop, on the 3rd floor in the talisman room. Phew! Lu Chongqing let out a long breath, looking at the black dragon magical bead floating before him, his eyes filled with joy. After nearly 3 months of refinement, this magical treasure was finally ready for him to integrate into his body. Immediately, Lu Chongqing took off his top garment, revealing a well-defined and smooth chest. He planned to integrate the black dragon magical bead into his breastbone. However, each body part could only be integrated with one magical treasure. To integrate the black dragon magical bead, he would first need to remove the shard of the previous treasure from within his breastbone. Chi! With a light exhalation, Lu Chongqing activated the 100 Refinements treasure body art. A glowing light of precious energy circulated on his chest, and the black birthmark formed by a chunk of iron started to wriggle gently. Gradually, a black shard emerged slowly from his chest, bit by bit. After a long time, the shard of the magical treasure was removed. Lu Chongqing took a sip of jade bamboo liquor and then held a spirit stone to recover his spiritual power. Refining the black dragon magical bead and removing the shard had taken a toll on him. He needed to restore his inner spiritual power before he could continue to integrate the black dragon magical bead. When his spiritual power was sufficiently restored, Lu Chongqing began to integrate the black dragon magical bead into his body. Under the concentration of his spiritual power, the black dragon magical bead slowly assimilated with Lu Chongqing's chest. Like this, as time passed bit by bit, the black dragon magical bead completely merged into Lu Chongqing's chest, integrated into his breastbone. This left the pattern of a black dragon magical bead on his chest. As the black dragon magical bead entered his breastbone, Lu Chongqing felt a powerful force washing over and refining his flesh, meridians, and bones. He felt as if his 100 Refinements treasure body art was training and improving at every moment. Is this the effect of integrating a magical treasure into my body? It's 100 times better than the previous magical treasure shard. With this force refining me, even if I don't cultivate, just give it a couple of years and my 100 Refinements treasure body art will break through to the second level. Lu Chongqing quietly savored the refining power of the black dragon magical bead, his face full of surprise and happiness. The effect of integrating the magical treasure into his body was several times better than he had anticipated. If he continued to cultivate like this, the strength of his body refinement would fully catch up with his chi refinement. I wonder when he'll be able to draw a chi refinement cultivation technique. I'm so done with this lousy returning origin technique, Lu Chongqing thought to himself. If he had a chi refinement cultivation technique like the 100 Refinements treasure body art, not only would his foundations and strength improve, but his cultivation speed might also increase. However, Miaoyun is about to give birth soon. If this child possesses a spiritual root, then according to my earlier guess, there is a very likely chance to receive a draw. Lu Chongqing let out a long sigh, thinking to himself. At that moment, he prepared to put on his top garment, looking at the dark gleaming pattern on his chest, where an indistinct image of a flood dragon seemed to come and go, and he nodded in satisfaction. It looks much better now. In his view, this pattern was so much more attractive than the previous one from the magical treasure shard, which looked like a black birthmark. There's only a bit of spiritual essence left in this shard, which makes it unnecessary to integrate it elsewhere, Lu Chongqing remarked as he looked at the shard in his hand. This shard had been in his body for nearly a year already, helping him in his cultivation. Most of the spiritual essence inside was consumed. Otherwise, he could have integrated the shard into a hand or foot bone to assist his cultivation. Seeing that it was getting late, Lu Chongqing got up to tidy up and left the spiritual talisman shop to head home. Chapter 131. Lao Lu, do you want a wife? Under 1. Lu Taoist, I don't know if your spiritual talisman shop has sold out of supreme talismans? Just as Lu Chongqing reached his home's entrance, the courtyard door to the left opened. A middle-aged man in his 40s with thick eyebrows, a square face, and a calm demeanor stepped out and called out to Lu Chongqing upon seeing him. Xia Taoist, all 3 of the supreme talismans in my shop for this month have already been sold. Are you going to hunt some demon beast again that you actually need to buy a supreme talisman? Lu Chongqing said, somewhat surprised. The middle-aged man was named Xia Long and had moved in a few months ago as a new neighbor. Like the neighbor who had moved away previously, he said he usually hunted demon beasts to earn money. As for the truth of that statement, Lu Chongqing did not know. This neighbor often went out and wasn't home much, but he knew that Lu Chongqing was a talisman master and that he was the owner of Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. He would usually come to Lu Chongqing to buy talismans. I've made plans with a few fellow Taoists to explore an ancient tomb, so I thought to purchase a few talismans for protection from you. Xiaolong spoke up. I only have 3 supreme talismans in my shop each month, and they are usually reserved. If you want one, Xia Daoist, I can keep one aside for you when we restock. If you're in urgent need, I still have a few premium talismans on me. I don't know if they would be of use to you, Xia Daoist? Lu Chongqing said so. He did possess supreme talismans he had made, but they weren't readily available for sale. After all, the shop sold only 3 each month. Just one extra could attract unwanted attention from the observant. However, selling premium talismans was no big deal. He had plenty on hand and didn't mind selling more. May I ask which premium talismans you have on you, Lu Daoist? Xiaolong asked. Lu Chongqing listed several types of premium-grade premium talismans. Afterward, Xiaolong purchased a thunder summoning talisman and an escape talisman. Both talismans were sold for 50 spirit stones each, but Lu Chongqing gave a discount and charged Xiaolong 90 spirit stones. The other party was straightforward and did not haggle. Thank you, Lu Daoist. Xiaolong put away the talismans and bowed slightly. You're too polite, Xia Daoist. With 90 spirit stones in his account, Lu Chongqing felt quite pleased with himself. After all, this money was for his personal account. And the cost of making those 2 talismans was only 4 or 5 spirit stones. A profit margin of 20 times. Absolutely exorbitant. Xiaolong then took his leave shortly after. Running a dungeon? I've never experienced anything like that. There's no need for me to try it though. Although the return is high, the risk is great too. A single misstep and it could cost you your life. Lu Chongqing watched Xiaolong's retreating figure and shook his head slightly, entering his home. He was somewhat curious about exploring the ancient tombs and secret realms like others did, but he had no desire to try such endeavors. With the system at his side, he didn't need to struggle and fight as Xiaolong did. All he needed was to honestly pursue his path without contest or strife, calmly getting married, taking concubines, raising children, and the great Tao could be expected. If he worked too hard, striving too much, he might end up on an inferior path. Half a month later, the child in little Qing's belly was born. This child also had no spiritual root, which caused Lu Chongqing to let out a sigh. The firstborn children of Chu Zhenjin and Lu Miaoyun had spiritual roots, which had filled him with great expectations for the offspring of his wives and concubines blessed with spiritual roots. But now, 3 children in a row, born to wives and concubines with spiritual roots, were without them. It inevitably brought some disappointment to his heart. Phew, no matter, there's no rush, the chance will come eventually. After all, this kind of thing only has a probability of 1 or 2 in 10. Lu Chongqing exhaled deeply, consoling himself. And with the birth of 2 new babies, Lu Chongqing was faced with another concern, child-rearing. In 9 Dragons Market, raising children was naturally no problem. But as the number of children grew, it would become somewhat inconvenient. One reason was that the courtyard was too small to accommodate all of them. As the children grew, there was also no place for them to play or have activities. Furthermore, when the children reached a few years older, he had to consider their education. After pondering for a moment, Lu Chongqing planned to send the children to Qingzhou Mountain for upbringing when the second elder returned there. In Qingzhou Mountain, not only was the environment better and more spacious, but the children also had companions. A bunch of brothers and sisters could grow up together and strengthen their relationships. Additionally, in 9 Dragons Market, children over 6 years old would be charged a residence fee, which was utterly ridiculous. Is the stress of raising children one of the reasons cultivators don't like having them? After all, for a cultivator, the ages between 20 and 50 are considered prime years, the time to make progress with vigor. If one has children at that age, it's an added burden. Not only do you have to nurture and educate the child, but whatever you do in the future, you also have to consider the child. Lu Chongqing suddenly thought to himself. He felt that if he did not have Qingzhou Mountain as a strong rear base, it would be quite a burden to support so many wives and children within the cultivation marketplace. He might only be able to set up his family and make a living in the mundane world. At this moment, Lu Chongqing gained a deeper understanding of the land aspect in the wealth, companionship, and land triad. He realized that to start a family and establish his own cultivation family, it was essential to have his own land. Whether it was owning several properties in a cultivation marketplace like Nine Dragons Market or like the Lu family, possessing a spiritual vein-blessed land such as Qingzhou Mountain. In the blink of an eye, another month passed. Lu Changsheng's life continued as usual. Every day he engaged in cultivation, talisman making, went to work, and occasionally accompanied his wives and maids on shopping trips. Chapter 132. Lao Lu, do you want a wife? After all, with these maids pregnant, a stroll around the street is beneficial for their physical and mental health. And during this past month, both Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenzhen had conceived their second and third child, respectively. These events were also under Lu Changsheng's control. Now, with half a year since the two ladies had their babies, their bodies had fully recuperated. The only downside was that this baby-making had left both women with virtually no progress in their cultivation. For this matter, Lu Chongqing could only compensate them doubly later on. One day, Lu Chongqing took his wives, concubines, and maids out shopping. Husband, I want to eat this. Husband, I think this dress suits little Yuner very well. Zhenzhen sis, does this dress make me look pretty? The wives and concubines chatted away cheerfully. Time is the cure for everything. Now, the numbness and lifelessness in Xiao Yuyo's eyes had completely disappeared, and she had become much more cheerful. Xiao Yueru had improved a lot over these past few months as well. Looking at her slightly bulging stomach, occasionally stroking it, a motherly smile appeared on her face. All right, let's buy it. Lu Chongqing responded readily to every request his wives and maids made. As long as he didn't spend lavishly on magic artifacts or precious items, or on buying maids, he could save quite a bit of spirit stones each month. Xiao Yueru, standing aside, looked at Lu Chongqing, whose face was full of gentle smiles, and her beautiful eyes sparkled with an unfathomable light. In this world, the status of maids and concubines is very low. For maids like them who had ended up in the White Jade Tower, most of their fates were to be treated as tools for reproduction or outlets for lust. But Lu Chongqing treated them not as equals to his wives, but still exceptionally well. Even better than back in her own family. They didn't need to toil for a living, had spirit rice and spirit food for every meal, along with sweet spirit delicacies. They were also cared for and attended to regularly. Even if it was just a simple gesture of concern, it deeply touched their hearts. After shopping, Lu Chongqing and the ladies returned home. As they entered the door, they happened to meet Yu Maoqing, who was also returning home. He was accompanied by his wife, Yu Ningrong, and a girl about 16 or 17 years old, cute and lovely. Yu Maoqing saw Lu Chongqing, flanked closely by Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenzhen, holding his arm affectionately. And followed by 4 maids. He really didn't know what to say. He couldn't understand how someone could live a life like Lu Changsheng's. Everyone was the son-in-law of a cultivation family. Why was the difference so vast? Lu Chongqing was a talisman master, but he himself was also a spirit cooking chef. Yu Maoqing was truly envious. But he still greeted Lu Chongqing with a smile and a nod. Husband, what do you think about marrying Qianqian off to Lu Chongqing? Just as he entered the house, Yu Maoqing heard a voice. It was his wife Yu Ningrong speaking. My lady, you want to betroth Qianqian to Lu Chongqing? Yu Maoqing was slightly stunned and replied telepathically. Yun Qianqian was the daughter of his wife's good friend. Recently, after her parents suffered an accident and left only her behind, she was left in the care of his wife. They had just brought Yun Qianqian to the Nine Dragons marketplace today, preparing to arrange for her to help out in the shop. He hadn't expected his wife to think of betrothing Yun Qianqian to Lu Chongqing at this moment. Thinking about Lu Chongqing being surrounded by so many wives and maids, and now his wife wanting to marry Yun Qianqian to him, it almost made him grit his teeth to dust. Damn it, you're really something. Yu Maoqing thought enviously. That's right. Qianqian is soft-hearted and not very independent. Working as a helper in our shop is not a long-term solution. Sooner or later, she has to marry into a good family. Although Lu Chongqing has many wives and concubines, through my contacts and chats with them, I feel that he treats his wives rather well. Even as a concubine, it would be a good family to marry into. Yu Ningrong said so. It could work. I've known Lu Chongqing for a while now, and aside from being overly fond of women and having children, he is a decent person in other aspects. Not only is he a middle-grade talisman master, but his appearance, temperament, and personality are all first class. If we arrange for Qianqian to marry him, it would be a good match. And since we are here and familiar with each other, I reckon Lu Chongqing wouldn't treat Qianqian unfairly. After pondering for a moment, Yu Maoqing spoke. He might envy Lu Chongqing, but after interacting for so long, he felt that Lu Chongqing was a pretty good and reliable person. Upon hearing this, Yu Ningrong nodded slightly. She then looked at the young girl beside her and said, Qianqian, what do you think of that talisman master Lu just now? Talisman master Lu, the one across the door? He seems suave and gifted, just a bit of a philanderer. Yun Qianqian uttered, pursing her lips. Indeed, talisman master Lu is quite the romantic. Aside from these wives and maids, he has several more wives and about a dozen maids at home. Yu Ningrong straightforwardly said. But I've met him a few times and spoken with his wives. I know that although talisman master Lu is flirtatious, he treats his wives quite well. Your mother entrusted you to my care, and ultimately you have to marry into a good family. If you're willing, Aunt Rong can arrange a marriage for you and betroth you to talisman master Lu. Yu Ningrong continued to speak. Upon hearing this, Yun Qianqian was slightly taken aback. Thinking of Lu Changsheng's handsome and elegant appearance and that he was a talisman master. Her eyes lowered, and a blush crept onto her cheeks. She whispered, as Aunt Rong decides. Chapter 133. Lao Lu, do you want a wife? Yu Ningrong couldn't help but smile at the scene. To herself, she thought that the talisman master Lu was truly handsome. Just one encounter and her niece was behaving like this. She gently stroked Yun Qianqian's hair, then said aloud, all right, then it's settled. Later, your Aunt Rong will go ask for you. The next day, Lu Chongsheng was working at the spiritual talisman shop when he heard from Zhang Shan that Yu Maoqing was looking for him. He descended the stairs with some confusion. Brother Lu, do you want a wife? Yu Maoqing asked directly as soon as he saw Lu Chongsheng. Lu Chongsheng was startled by the question. What the hell? He already had so many wives. Why was someone asking if he wanted another? Do I look like I lack wives? Seeing Lu Changsheng's surprised expression, Yu Maoqing explained the situation with Yun Qianqian to him. Hee, all right, then send her over, Lu Chongsheng said with a chuckle after hearing Yu Maoqing's words. His approach to taking wives and concubines nowadays was naturally not as simple as before. He had several major requirements in mind. First, she must possess a spiritual root. Next, he did not want someone with too high of a cultivation level. No good in terms of character? Unwanted. Profound family background? Unwanted. Burdened with karma and entanglements? Unwanted. As for attributes like appearance, figure, gentleness, and understanding, or being alone and helpless, those were bonus points. The Yun Qianqian whom Yu Maoqing introduced was a perfect match for his criteria. She possessed an 8th grade spiritual root, was at the 2nd level of qi refinement, and had a gentle and understanding personality. Not only was she without a family background, but her parents had both passed away, leaving her alone. The only close person she had was Yu Maoqing's wife, Yu Ningrong. And Lu Chongsheng had also met this Yun Qianqian the day before. Although he hadn't looked at her closely, he could tell she was fairly attractive and above average in terms of looks. For Lu Chongsheng, such a woman could naturally be taken as a concubine. You agreed just like that? Yu Maoqing was startled when Lu Chongsheng immediately agreed after he had finished speaking. Otherwise, Lu Chongsheng replied. You don't need to check with your wife first? Yu Maoqing expressed his confusion. Yuner is very understanding. She will surely understand and support me in this matter, Lu Chongsheng said. Damn it. You're really infuriating, you know? This is even more painful than killing me. Yu Maoqing stood up and left upon hearing these words. He then said he would bring Yun Qianqian to Lu Changsheng's house later to settle the matter. It seems having a few friends does have its benefits, Lu Chongqing thought to himself after Yu Maoqing had left. As night fell, Lu Chongqing finished work and headed home. Before Lu Chongqing could bring up Yun Qianqian's matter, Lu Miaoyun brought it up proactively with him. Not only had Yu Maoqing discussed it with Lu Chongqing, Yu Ningrong had also spoken about it with Lu Miaoyun that day. And Lu Miaoyun had long since come to terms with this aspect of Lu Changsheng's life. Knowing her husband always wanted to bring more wives and concubines into the household for a blessing of many children, she naturally agreed immediately to the favorable concubine arriving at their doorstep. "My dear Yunar, marrying you is truly the greatest fortune of my life," Lu Chongqing said. Just as they were about to have dinner, Bai He came to notify them that Yu Maoqing and his wife had come for a visit. Lu Chongqing instantly knew they must have come about Yun Qianqian's matter. He immediately got up to receive them. "Brother Yu, sister-in-law," Lu Chongqing greeted Yu Maoqing and Yu Ningrong with hands clasped together. A young girl followed behind the couple. It was Yun Qianqian. Looking at Yun Qianqian, he saw that she had dressed up specially for the occasion. Her black hair was done up in an elaborate coiffure, decorated with a jade butterfly hairpin with tasseled pearls hanging from it. She wore a lake blue tube-top dress, with a figure that was not spectacular, but was starting to take shape. Her almond-shaped eyes were clear and animated, betrayed a hint of shyness at this moment. Her oval-shaped face was sweet and endearing, the kind one could keep looking at without tiring, pleasing to the eye. "Brother Yu, sister Rong, you haven't dined yet, right? You've come at the perfect time. Join us for a meal." Lu Miaoyun also came out, speaking to Yu Maoqing and Yu Ningrong. Then, turning to the slightly nervous Yun Qianqian with an air of grace and poise, she said, "You must be Qianqian, right?" "Lu's sister," Yun Qianqian called out. Although she called Yu Maoqing and Yu Ningrong uncle and auntie, it obviously wasn't appropriate to call Lu Miaoyun auntie now. After all, the day before, Yu Ningrong had made Lu Changsheng's situation and their family circumstances clear to her once more. So her current visit meant that the matter was effectively settled. "Come on, let's go inside and have something to eat." Lu Miaoyun warmly took Yun Qianqian's hand and invited Yu Maoqing and Yu Ningrong into the house. Yu Maoqing, witnessing the scene before him, felt as if he were in a magical world. When the three entered the dining hall and saw Lu Chongqing being surrounded by a group of women, they were even more bewildered. They knew Lu Chongqing had numerous wives, concubines, and maids. But seeing the large dining table encircled by more than a dozen women, many of whom were obviously pregnant, presented a sight that was too intense, too staggering. However, seeing that all the women seemed happy, and the food comprised spirit rice, spiritual vegetables, and demon beast meat, along with spiritual tea to drink, they felt more at ease. Soon, Yu Maoqing and Yu Ningrong, accompanied by Yun Qianqian, took their seats and ate a few bites, and thus the concubine acceptance was considered settled. There wasn't much red tape involved. They just planned to book 2 tables at the Jade Meal Pavilion after a couple of days to treat a few neighbors and friends, to make it official. Lu Miaoyun largely took charge of this event. It was the first time Lu Chongqing accepted a concubine with the active involvement of his wife, Lu Miaoyun. 3 days later, Yun Qianqian officially crossed the threshold of the house. With a soft song from a young girl, she formally became one of Lu Changsheng's concubines. That year, Lu Chongqing was 24 years old. With 5 wives, 9 concubines, 2 favored consorts, and 15 maids. Chapter 134. Book of Malevolent Curses and Fates. 77 Children. Under 1. The peaceful and leisurely life always seemed to fly by quickly. In the blink of an eye, more than a month had passed. During this month or so, Yun Qianqian had perfectly integrated into the big family of Lu Chongqing, and was successfully pregnant with a child. This made Yu Maoqing and his wife couldn't help but marvel at Lu Changsheng's efficiency. During a conversation, Yu Maoqing asked Lu Chongqing how he would support so many children in the future. While it's said that the poor raise their children one way and the rich another, if a child had a spiritual root, no matter what, it would still require a considerable amount of expense. Faced with this inquiry, Lu Chongqing exhibited an air of nonchalance, indicating that as a talisman master, he had some savings. He was also saving money for his children's future upbringing. After all, he didn't mind suffering a bit himself, but he absolutely couldn't let his children suffer. Hearing Lu Changsheng's words, Yu Maoqing immediately revealed an expression like that of an old man scrutinizing a smartphone. He believed Lu Chongqing wouldn't let his children suffer. But no matter how he looked at it, he didn't think Lu Chongqing was the type to let himself suffer either. Yu Maoqing had never seen anyone who knew how to enjoy life quite like Lu Chongqing. Not only was he served by a host of wives and maids, his eating, drinking, spending, and shopping habits also made him, with a mere 10 spirit stones a month, look on with great envy. However, things like this Yu Maoqing wouldn't inquire too much about. With the relationship involving Yun Qianqian, although there was more interaction between the two families, it wasn't as if they were like in-laws. Knowing that Yun Qianqian was doing well in Lu Changsheng's household was enough for them. On this day, Lu Chongsheng was in the spiritual talisman shop drawing talismans. All of a sudden, he felt an indescribable sense of wonder. It gave Lu Chongsheng the premonition that his spiritual root had advanced. From an 8th grade spiritual root to a 7th grade spiritual root. Did I just have a child with a spiritual root born? Under this thrilling realization, Lu Chongsheng was suddenly startled and his face showed a surprised delight. The talisman he was creating failed, and the paper emitted a wisp of blue smoke. Lu Chongsheng didn't mind, and after a brief sensing, he shook his head and said, "No, this is not the thrill of a child's spiritual root contributing. This is just a natural enhancement, an elevation from an 8th grade spiritual root to a 7th grade spiritual root." That's right, the spiritual roots of my 4 children are still developing, so it's as if my own spiritual root is growing as well. With the previous enhancements, my spiritual root had already neared the pinnacle of 8th grade, and now as it grows, it has naturally advanced to 7th grade. Lu Chongqing quickly understood what was happening. Based on the timing, it was indeed true that 2 of his wives on Qingzhou Mountain would be giving birth to their children around this time. But he could feel that he hadn't received any enhancement thrill from the spiritual root. There was only an inherent feeling that his spiritual root had advanced. 7th grade spiritual root. Phew, I've finally advanced to a 7th grade spiritual root, just one more step, and it'll be a middle grade spiritual root, an immortal seedling. Lu Chongqing took a deep breath and exhaled it slowly, his face full of joy. The spiritual root was the foundation of one's cultivation. For Lu Chongqing, the spiritual root was not just the foundation of his cultivation. It was also related to the upper limit of his future children's spiritual root quality. After all, the quality of the parent's spiritual roots can influence that of their children's. The better his own spiritual root, the better his future children's spiritual root potential would be. Although he was working hard to improve the quality of his children's mothers, how could he, as a father, lag behind? Going on like this, the later the children are born, not only will the conditions and environment get better and better, but their talents will also stand on the shoulders of their brothers and sisters, with increasingly higher limits. Lu Chongqing couldn't help but sigh. It seemed to him that as long as he continued to have children and improve, maybe in the future, he could have a whole family of advanced-level spiritual roots, even heavenly spiritual roots. He then attempted to experience the cultivation speed of his 7th grade spiritual root. However, the silent and progressive enhancement of his spiritual root didn't feel like a significant change from before. An 8th grade spiritual root and a 7th grade spiritual root are both lower grade spiritual roots. There's not a noticeable difference in this progress. I imagine the upgrade from a lower grade to a middle grade spiritual root will bring a notable change. And I wonder how much help the advancement of my spiritual root from 8th grade to 7th grade will be in overcoming the bottleneck from the middle stage to the energy refinement late stage. Lu Chongqing shook his head slightly, glancing at his qi ocean core that was like a stream of thick spiritual energy. He would meditate for 2 hours every day to cultivate, but there was still no movement in his cultivation level. He could only rely on gradual progress, waiting for a breakthrough opportunity. But if he really wanted to break through, Lu Chongqing had also inquired. A high-grade breakthrough elixir, 1200 spirit stones. It could help someone from energy refinement middle stage to break through to the late stage. He could afford it if he saved for a year, but to Lu Chongqing, it didn't seem necessary. As he didn't venture out, compete with others, or go dungeon crawling, having a sufficient cultivation level was good enough. He didn't need to rush. Taking yellow dragon elixirs to aid in cultivation was enough for him. Such breakthrough elixirs could impact his future foundation establishment. Guan Xian should be giving birth soon, Wonder if this child will have a spiritual root. Lu Chongqing stretched his limbs, looking out at the clear azure sky, feeling a sense of anticipation. He had become quite philosophical about children born to wives without spiritual roots, but he couldn't help feeling a bit of anticipation when it came to those wives who did have spiritual roots. After 10 days, Lu Chongqing discovered that 2 of his maids were pregnant. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.